great things. So eager to see where we are now and what are we up to. So while we have a couple of minutes, can you tell me how is this different than a college project? Anything like you've done before? Is it different, same, similar?
So like it's similar in terms of the planning that goes into it, like developing the architecture and after that sitting and coding the actual thing. But then it's different in terms of the scale at which it's happening. So and even the fact that it's connected to GovTech and it's connected with the government. So I think that's really cool.
Very cool. I think good takeaway. That whole population scale, I think one of the things that we don't realize, we think government software is all, badly done apps. But on the back end, whatever exists is population scale software. In any startup, you typically, you're dealing with maybe 1 million users. Even if they get 1 million users in the first couple of years, they're lucky. But in government, you have to go live for like 100 million users, 200 million users on day one. And so the scale, architecture, the thought process is totally different. And so every little thing has to be thought through very, very clearly, the implications of it and so on. The other piece is also the lack of managed services. So that's another thing that you would see as a common theme. We typically would directly use Amazon Redshift or just use a BigQuery or just use a RDS and all and set things up. There's a lot of DevOps learning that happens in GovTech projects because you've got to set up servers. Most of the time, servers are in-house, or then even if they're on Amazon or GCP, they're on EC2 or bare bones.
Hi everyone.
Hi Shruti. Hi Chakshu.
Hi Rahul. All the best, guys.
Thank you.
All the best, guys. Be confident. I think be articulate, be confident. क्या होता है? We do a lot of work in the background. लेकिन अगर मुंह से आवाज नहीं निकली तो all that work is wasted. Nobody knows what you did. So just be bold. Don't worry. Mistakes happen. You will never say anything wrong. Don't worry. Just show what you have. And everyone, all the panel, everyone is highly technical. So any technical terms, please feel free to get into technical as you're explaining it. Don't be afraid to, use technical terms or show code and all of that. All of that is most welcome actually. Have mein mat bolo. Don't try to wing it. People have seen enough to see through that. This is not a college project presentation. All the best. I think all of you will do very well. And most importantly, I think it's a very great opportunity for you to interact with folks like JB and Manish and Ravi. I'll tell you in the intros, how they've really shaped a lot of the infrastructure that we've all used in the last 10 years in India.
Yeah. Ravi actually has just entered the meeting room. So I think they started coming.
Hi, Ravi.
Hi, Rahul.
Hey, thanks so much for making time, Ravi. Thanks so much for joining.
Hey, no, not an issue at all.
Great. So this is the gang. Ravi, you see all the very young, smart contributors.
Hey, nice to meet you guys. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Morning, sir.
Hey, hi, Alok.
Good morning, folks.
Hey, Rahul. Hi, Alok. Thanks for joining. So nice to see you.
Hi, Alok.
So everyone, while Alok's not formally part of the session, Alok is taking time out to attend this. Alok is the Chief Product Officer at EkStep. So a lot of the, the education software that you see built out in terms of Diksha, or a lot of the building blocks that you see built out, shaped, is all, shaped by Alok over the last many, many years. Really lucky to have him. Hi, JB.
Good morning, Rahul.
Good morning, JB. So nice to have you. Thank you so much for making time. So it's a nice small group. You see all the bright young contributors and some familiar faces.
I'm in the office. I'll just log into my office machine. I'll just be.
How come you're in office, JB?
You are doing such an important event.
Very nice of you. So let's get started. I think Manish, Anishita, would you know if Manish is joining?
Yeah, I'll just get him.
Yeah, can you just ping? Otherwise, he'll join in a minute. So JB and Ravi, look, Manish as well from eGov also consented to join us today.
Yes.
Very different perspectives, right? It would be. I am excited to hear you all your perspectives. Kind of the Tridev of GovTech today present with us. I think why don't we get started? And I think Manish, who's also a part of the panel, will join in. As soon as maybe some technical difficulties or the link may be a challenge. So why don't we get started today? Thank you so much, everyone, for joining on a bright and nice, or maybe a rainy Sunday, depending on where you are. Today, we are all gathered here for this Midpoint Showcase event for Code for GovTech. Now, Code for GovTech is a program that has been conceptualized for engineering students across the country. And this is an annual summer program and modeled along the lines of Google Summer of Code, which has been really helpful for so many folks getting mentored in the area of open source software. And Code for GovTech is the GovTech slant to it. Now we have 5 organizations as mentoring partners for the program this year. 13 students from colleges across India have been selected as contributors. They're currently working on open source GovTech projects. They'll be doing this over the next, they've been doing this for the period of 2 months. Now, the inauguration of this program was formally done by Dr. Subhash Garg, who's the CEO of UIDAI, which manages Aadhaar, and Dr. Pramod Verma, who's the CTO of EkStep Foundation and Chief Architect of Aadhaar last month. And this first cohort is about to reach midpoint. So right now, what we are doing is reaching the midpoint of that coding period, and it's now to time for them to showcase, the intermediate step that they have gotten to. As part of today's midpoint showcase, contributors will be showcasing bare bones hello world demos as part of the illustrious panel that we have. I'll introduce them in just a second. But to really set the stage, I think what we have across the board is a whole bunch of projects that deal with building blocks that form the pillars of open source software in the government area. And so each one of these pillars are very, very critical, and that's what the different contributors have contributed to. What they have gotten to at this point is getting set up ready. We all know how hard is it to ramp up on some of these building blocks. Sometimes you don't think in terms of building blocks. You always think of ready to go SaaS software or ready to go things like that. In this case, we have to ramp up on building blocks. Sometimes documentation is not perfect. Sometimes there are issues in setting up and so on. But these young bravehearts, they have gone through all of that and set things up, and they have everything up and running. They also probably have a little hello world. We'll find out, just a base hello world of what they're planning to do. The way they have come into this thing is very similar to Code for GSoC, where they've submitted proposals. So even when coming in, all of these contributors have either tried out something with the code, maybe fixed a bug, got familiar with the code base, and understanding the code base, submitted a proposal. Based on the proposal, they were shortlisted into this small group. And so overall, I think they have a very strong understanding of what they are. They know what they want to do. And it is not just a task, right? Very different from typical kind of internships where there is a task given and they're doing it. In this case, there was an open-ended problem statement given. An open-ended meaning, what should an admin for Sunbird RC be? What should what should be a low touch mode of doing, say, UCI? What should be a competency passbook? Very abstract problem statements that deal with a building block and also deal with a real use case. So a combination of these is what they're doing. Now, let me introduce our very, very illustrious panel. Truly honored to have you all here. Ravi, Jagadish, and Manish. I don't know, Manish should join in a couple of minutes, and so I'll introduce him when he joins. But I love to introduce Ravi and Jagadish, and also I'll take the chance to introduce Alok, who's attending. But I'd love to can't pass the opportunity to introduce him to the team. So let me start with Ravi. Ravi, Jagadish, and Manish, three pillars of different areas of what we have seen happening in the past decade in India. So how many of you familiar with Beckn? You've heard of Beckn. You've probably heard of ONDC in the news over the last couple of weeks, which is Open Network for Digital Commerce. How do you democratize platforms? How do you actually get a single stack thing? If you have only Swiggy, only Amazon, only Zomatos, they own the app, they own the sellers, they own the restaurant, they own the delivery boy, everything is one stack, right? It's a closed network. What does it mean to open up network? What does it mean to even Kirana guys, your UDPs, all of them to be part of that seller thing and not need to pay the exorbitant fees that one platform is charging? Can that be democratized? So Beckn is not just doing this in e-commerce, but also getting this into other domains. And that is what Ravi has been leading. Ravi is very, very technical in his approach. And most importantly, I have personally learned from Ravi how to actually, get things going through a community. So, you'd see Ravi in a variety of areas over the next 10 years, I tell you, 15 years, 20 years, hopefully more. In your careers, you will see Ravi in some form or the other, guiding an open source committee, getting inputs from an open source community of how to build, what to build. So building things in a community, if you have read any W3C documents, you've seen how this technical specifications evolve and all. In the India world, in the Beckn world, in a lot of things that are being created in India today in GovTech, Ravi has been leading the whole effort of how does a community get created around it. So beyond the brains of how do you create the architecture for something as complex as Beckn, how do you actually create a community that builds it and not just being a one-time thing that someone shoots. So thank you so much for Ravi for being here. It's truly an honor.
Pleasure.
Great. Next up, Jagadish, we all love to call him JB, but Jagadish has been a very illustrious personality. You've probably used anything that he has touched over the last 10 years. He was very, very instrumental to Aadhaar. Aadhaar wouldn't have been here without Jagdish's presence. While we all just went to the booth and got our different, Aadhaar numbers, Jagadish was in the field, in the villages, in the towns and villages, literally 4-5 years together. Jagadish has been in the villages and towns to figure out how accurate is fingerprint. Mean to fail on a fingerprint read. It's a lot of thanks to Jagdish's efforts that we realized fingerprint isn't working great. Let's also get retina as a backup. So a lot of decisions in terms of how Aadhaar was shaped up, really thanks to a lot of groundwork that Jagadish has done. Of course, Jagadish comes from a very strong technical background, was at Intel for 17 years before he moved to the impact sector. So many of us, we're all part of the industry. Then we have this, one bright wave of mind where we realize that, hey, we should actually, do something for society at large. And so Jagadish is a shining example of actually following that. So for the last 10 years, Jagadish has not only helped Aadhaar grow to where it is, he still is the architect for devices ecosystem at Aadhaar, but he also is the chief operating officer at EkStep. So a lot of the software that you see used in government schools by 200 million children are actually getting adopted thanks to what Jagadish has contributed to. Jagadish has also recently taken on the whole mantle of Sunbird building blocks. What does it mean to actually shape them into community-driven building blocks? So you'll definitely be seeing a lot more of Jagadish in even on the technology front. We learned so much. How do you package? How do you milestone things? How do you have clarity about what needs to be done? And how do you also do hypothesis product development? On hypothesis driven product development. And this is around whenever you're creating a product, work or not. So what do? You have a hypothesis. You say, I believe this will work. Right? You say, I believe this will work, and then you test it out. You create, it works, great. If it doesn't work, you say failure, and let's do something next. Jagadish has introduced this to GovTech right from Aadhaar days, having one-pagers for different elements of testing. So what should a retina scan mean? What should a enrollment mean? And hypothesis around it, and creating metrics, metrics to say, if 20%, more than 2% of failures exist, then this experiment is a failure. If greater than this exists, then this experiment is a success. And using a whole bunch of experiments, that's what actually gets it to become a larger product or a process in place. So a lot of that is that is a process that you have to kind of learn. It's not just about coding. There's also a process of how to build a product. And talking about products, I would love to introduce Alok as well to you. Alok is the Chief Product Officer at EkStep and has been responsible to shape these products. So finally, when you have bits and pieces of code, you have building blocks, you have jigsaw puzzles. What does it mean to join these jigsaw puzzles together to actually make those come alive and actually build those together to make something meaningful for the end user? So there's got to be something for the end user, right? What is the output for the end user? And that is something that Alok has a strong handle on. Always learned how Alok takes people along. So it's as one of the things as a lead of product is about how do you actually get folks from operations, from engineering, from other places, and even support, right? How do you get support involved? All of these things require support. How do you get sustainable communities kind of going with these and have high quality population scale software? So Alok has really shown how that can be done, how that can be made possible, and products can be done in the GovTech world, not just solutions. All right, so with that, I think I'm truly thankful. Again, welcome Ravi, Alok, Jagadish. And I'll introduce Manish when he joins in. We'll take a quick detour to introduce him whenever he comes in. All right, so I really am very appreciative. We all are for having you here. We'll now move to the demo showcase by the contributors. Now it's been 2 weeks. Let me just, since they have been onboarded. So just 2 weeks to their coding period. They have really put a lot of effort into learning in this 2-week period and doing, and at the same time, most of everyone, actually all of them, had their university exams in these 2 weeks. So the output that we are seeing is a combination of a university exam preparation plus code for GovTech, what they're doing on the side during exams. So it's truly commendable. Guys, truly commendable how you guys manage it. We've all got to learn from you quite a bit. Now, in terms of that said, we would love to get a feel for where are you headed. So don't worry, we are not here to judge you. Okay, we are not here to judge you. We are actually here to learn from you. We'd like to learn, what are things that work for you? What are the things that work for you? What are the things that you are excited about? Because you are the next generation, right? We've done it for one particular generation. Now you are the next generation who will take this software forward. And so we'd like to understand, where are challenges that you're faced in doing that? What are things that can be improved? How can, and what is the ambition that you have? Where are you trying to go with your project? What is the key angle that you're looking at? And some maybe proof points, some demo that you can show that actually shows a setup or something basic there would be great. And I'll tell you, last 3 days, I was in 3 different cities talking about 3 very different domains. So on Thursday, I was in Bhubaneswar, we were talking about agriculture, and Ravi, we were talking about Beckonizing agriculture. What does it mean to introduce Beckn to agriculture? On Friday, I was in Varanasi, where at higher education conference on NEP, where actually the Prime Minister had inaugurated that. There, it was about vice chancellors of universities and higher education. I tell you, all of the building blocks that you're talking about today, right, in terms of, whether it's competency passbook, whether it's UCI for communication, whether it's Sunbird for registries, the whole construct of NDR for to these building blocks. How do you get universities? How do you get a student in Kodaikanal to start a course in Kodaikanal University and then go to Lucknow and continue that course with the same student ID, with the same learning outcomes or the same competencies? That's not possible today. But all of the things, all of the building blocks that you're building today will make those possible. So each one of these things, you don't see fancy solution names to it. They are building block names, but I can't tell you the importance of this. Yesterday, we were in Lucknow talking about primary education. So Friday was higher education. Yesterday night was primary education. Yesterday all day. Now in Lucknow, primary education for children, right? How do you make it easy to communicate with these students? What are experiences to offer? So many of you may be working on Shiksha related projects. What are easy experiences that can be created? Or then UCI, what are nudges that can be given to parents, to students? And I tell you, the challenge on the education front has never ever been tougher. 2 years has really wiped out a lot of good work that had been done in the last 50 years. So we really need all these tools in full-blown glory to make these things work. All right, and hi Manish. I think Manish has joined.
Hey, Rahul. Hey, I see my old filter is still there, so I need to remove that.
No. It's a nice one. Thank you so much for joining, Manish. I was just telling them, we have the Tridev of open source GovTech today with us. So we have Jagadish, and we have Ravi, and we have you, and we have also Alok. Actually, Alok joined, taking time off from his Sundays. So I would like to introduce Manish. Just like I talked about, Ravi really for Beckn and all the democratization, the UPIification of every domain that you will see in the next 5 years will be thanks to the architecture that Ravi has put together. A lot of Aadhaar, basis and all the things around, the Diksha platforms and Sunbird blocks that you have seen is thanks to what Jagadish has helped contribute over the last 10 years. And similarly, Manish, background, been at Infosys for 17 years, also as associate vice president, earlier principal architect, and then a serial entrepreneur. Manish leads eGov Foundation. So Manish has been instrumental in everything that you see in urban local bodies, the software that works there. So what eGov Foundation does is helps create a digit platform every local government body. So you see, whenever you paid a property tax, whenever you paid water bill, whenever you paid any of these taxes coming from the, your municipal corporation in cities, you've been probably touched by what Manish has built over the years. And so what does it take to create a product like that scales across 29 states, hundreds of cities, so many use cases, and make it configurable? So just, a few days ago, we were talking to Manish and we were talking about a completely different thing in workflow management. It was a completely different area on service delivery, but the architecture is so modular, so easy to configure that we could use it, the same platform for other use cases as well. So thank you so much, Manish, for gracing us with your presence. And without now further ado, let us jump into the demo showcase. So Anishila is going to guide us through different demos, and we'll just have 3 minutes for presentation and 3 minutes for feedback from the panel. And as I said, Manish, I was giving a quick intro earlier. It's been 2 weeks that everyone has started, the program. So there's really not a midpoint, but more like a 1/3 kind of showcase. They also had their university exams in the last 2 weeks only. So a lot of the output, it's just amazing how these young kids manage it, combining exam prep with progress here. But they've all ramped up on the different building blocks, whether it's QML in terms of standard, whether it is UCI, whether it is Sunbird, whether it is machine learning pipelines and so on. They've learned how to set it up and so on. So look forward to seeing where they are. And guys, as I said, we are not here to judge you. We are here to learn from you, to give us insights. Tell us, what worked, what didn't work, because nothing all works. Huh? We've all had 100 failures and then one success. So that's how open source works. We all learn with it. So showcase how you have whatever you have. Don't be afraid to speak up. As I said, we do a lot of work in the background, but if you don't say it out loud, open and free in expressing yourself. All right, over to you, Anashila.
Great. A very warm welcome to Manish sir, JB sir, Alok sir, Ravi sir. Thank you so much for joining us. And also to all our contributors who have been working and being at it for the past 2 weeks. So what we'll do is we will call upon one contributor one by one. First, we have Ansh Sarkar. He has been working on the competency passbook project, basically for the creation of a competency ledger on a blockchain network for schools, which will optimize creation of badges, awards, etc. So Ansh, over to you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I'll just present my screen. I hope it's visible.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So good morning to one and all present here and all the respected panelists. It's an honor to present in front of you. So my name is Ansh Sarkar. I'm currently in my 3rd year at KIT University, and over the past few weeks, I've had the privilege to work on this project of Competency Passbook. So essentially, what we aim to build at Competency Passbook is an interoperable and extensible ledger, a learning management system which can allow students to track their progress across fields, right? But later we brainstormed a lot about this over the past 2 weeks, and we realized that why just limit this to a learning management system? Why not, as Rahul sir has said, like democratize everything and make it a more modular approach? So that's what we did. And like the architecture is pretty simple. We have 3 main components to this. So the web application, which is used by the issuer to issue credentials to the holder. The mobile app via which a holder can view all the verifiable credentials which they have. And the API server which handles all these requests from both these clients, which is the web application and the mobile app. Moving forward, we have 6 major action flows. So what action flows actually mean are the various actions which can be taken on behalf of the issuer or the holder on this platform. So this platform enables issuing of credentials. Once the credential is issued, the holder fetches these credentials from a central registry. This registry can be decentralized or centralized. It's totally modular. Then this credential can be verified by any third-party organization. So hence the name verifiable credential. It can be revoked by the issuing authority in case such a situation arises. And a requester, if they need access to some particular information or data about the holder, they can request for such a presentation. Upon granting access, they can fetch this data to their local computers and then decrypt it and use it wherever and whenever required. So these are the action flows which are there in the system. About extensibility, UPI and Slack, both of them use deep links to provide extensibility. So rather than this would allow us to kind of create a community around this so that other app developers can come in and they can use the underlying protocol to develop their own implementations rather than having to use our hard-coded applications. And we also plan to integrate this with the YAOS project, which is also under C4GT, to shorten the links so that they're easier to handle, right? So for now, I'll quickly show a demo of the template and the schema creator, which I've implemented over the past 2 weeks. And the architecture has already been finalized and a pull request for the same has been submitted on the official repository at C4GT. So right now, what you're seeing here is the template creator, the demo of the template creator, which I've created. And all this allows you to do is create a template using HTML and CSS. So I can show you a sample template. This is the training certification template. You can load a template here. And we'll go through the training and certification template. I think it's taking a bit of a time to load right now. So what it essentially does is that you have the QR code as well. So yeah, here it is. So you get the template here And then along with the template, you can, we are following a kind of Jinja formatting to, allow access to particular points of data and use it inside the template, what we exactly want to present on the certificate. And then we have the schema creator, which also does approximately the same thing. But like we create the schema first. So we have a schema for Aadhaar, and then we have various templates which can be used to render this schema as a certificate to the issuer, right? So this is the entire thing which we have decided upon, and it's totally based on the W3 spec on verifiable credentials and verifiable presentations. So yeah, that's my entire architecture. And like the next steps include building this forward. And yeah, I would love to hear any kind of feedback from all the respected panelists sitting here.
Hey, wonderful work, Ansh. Really delighted to see that coming out as an experience. We've always talked about verifiable presentations and credentials as backend things, right? You've actually made it come alive very visually, very nicely. So Ravi, Jagadish, Manish, hello, any comments, any thoughts?
No. Go ahead, Ravi.
Sure. Hey, super awesome presentation, man. Just one quick suggestion over here. I think it sort of helps set the context very well. If you could lead with some sort of an example. I think you started off at a very conceptual level. I think we got it. But I think it would also generally help us relate very well to, what exactly are you building. If you could actually come up with some sort of example, it could be very simple, right? Like a school certificate, starting from school certificate, or something which is more complex, or something which can more cater to something more general across our country. So I think if you could add one example to your deck, I think that would be very nice. But otherwise, yeah, super, awesome job, man. All the best.
Thank you so much, sir. I'll surely keep that in mind, sir.
Maybe?
Yeah. So I think the starting was brilliant. Both the structure as well as the area chosen and the key verbs. The second slide or third slide had those verbs. I love it. So that itself is very valuable, just to be able to create, access, create, verify, and so on. I also like the idea of a verifiable presentation. I didn't understand that completely, but I love the idea. Apart from verifiable credentialing, I would like to see if you can add one of the verb, access, my credentials. I didn't see that in the 6 that you had, my credentials, so that across my lifetime of credentialing, I'll be able to organize that across my timelines of sort, if you will. Timelines or the major events, credentials around events. That would actually mean more meaningful to me, apart from issuing and verifying. That one additional step would make it very, very valuable. That's it, but brilliant.
Thank you so much, sir.
Superb idea, Jagdish. Very, very nice. Manish?
Yeah, absolutely. It means I'm thrilled to see this. Couple of months back, we were having a conversation with the Kerala team, state IT team. And, one of the things that they were struggling with was, a lot of people go out of the country, right? And when they go out of the country, for their work, they need to show their educational certificates and all of this kind of things. And the government there, any institution there, wants them to actually go back to the state, get their actual certificate certified by the government, and then come back, right? And it's a huge pain. I mean, the volumes of that is very high. And basically, they were looking at a way to solve this and hoping some of these things evolve where, the certificate issued by the school, because there are people, some of the new certificates that are getting issued are still, it can be made available like this, but some of their old certificates that are just not available, means if I were going out and I wanted my certificate, means then I'll have to do an application, apply, then somebody's got to get that whole thing. So this is like opening up that whole space for skills credentialing is huge. Means this is mind-boggling. So I'm very happy to see things are picking up and on this area specifically.
Thank you so much.
Great. Thanks so much, Manish. Very helpful. Anushila, hey, would love for everyone to actually turn on videos, especially contributors, mentors, so that we put a face to the name. This is not happening in person, but I think it's very helpful to know each other.
Yeah, and just to add, in case of any mentor, contributor also having feedback for each other, right? Feel free to drop it in the chat for peer-to-peer learning as well.
I just had one question. So Ansh, here for DID, what are you using?
So like currently we wanted to have something for decentralized identification, but like we were thinking about using either Aadhaar card or some of the like already implemented things so that we don't have to do that from scratch again.
Okay, but won't the DID provider also will need to implement a certain interface?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Like the DID provider is something, sir, which I was going through the W3 spec and they have mentioned DID providers there. So like we are currently on like developing that part, that how exactly are we going to decentralize it, and we also want some pseudo anonymity. We don't want things to be traceable and all those things. So a bit privacy preserving as well. So we are working on that. So.
Is that what you're using the blockchain for the?
Sir, right. So initially, like I had also done a PR. I had created an entire like Ethereum private network which could be used across institutions. But like the gas cost was just too prohibitive to use it. So at the end, we just decided that okay, let's not like blockchain. Like using blockchain was like a solution in the search of a problem. So rather what we did was that we traced it backward and we thought digital signatures can do the same thing faster and more efficiently. So that's why, sir.
Perfect.
Thank you, sir.
Nice work. Who's next?
Good job, Ansh. Next, we have Akshay and Kanika. They have been working together on this project called Yet Another URL Shortener YAWS. It's basically to shorten, customize, track URLs for enhanced user centricity. So over to you, Akshay and Kanika.
That's the question Jagadish is asking. So Jagadish, here's your answer.
Yeah, I didn't realize that's coming soon after.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. Is my screen visible?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So good morning, everyone. My name is Kanika. I'm pursuing BTech from ABS Institute of Technology and working on the project YAWS.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Akshay, pursuing BCA from Maharaja Suryavanshi Institute, and my project is also YAWS. YAWS, yet another URL shortener. YAWS is an open source service for generating shortened URL. YAWS is an app through which we are trying to build an independent open source platform which can be further used by many across sectors. Citizens engage in multiple types of links on a frequent basis, whether it's student accessing online learning content, unemployed youth sharing the resume, and link. This goes on. It is important to shorten, customize, and tag this link for enhanced user experience and driving use.
So basically, we are forming an open source community so that it could be used for other projects. As we saw, the competency passbook will be also using YAWS as their app. Okay, so let's discuss about the scope of the project. So the dashboard UI flows from the login authentication, the link creation flows, summary dashboard, and the recent activity. If you see the line tracking and analytics, it contains the web-based redirections, app-based deep link redirections, line tracking and analytics. Now let's see a Figma file of what we are trying to build and what's the big picture. Okay, so here you can see the sign up page, the sign in page, the dashboard, which will be used by the user, the link creation part. This is the first step. Then the second step, then there's a quick links link manager, the summary dashboard, the recent activity dashboard, and then the onboarding section. Okay, so let's talk about the tech stack. So we have used and design library for the whole UI of YAWS, as it gives a user-friendly effect. And the whole setup is made using React.js. For the authentication, Fusion Auth APIs have been used, as they always make sure that you are always protected and the routes are also protected. For the link creation, Swagger APIs have been used.
Now here comes the milestone. Week 1 is the self-learning week, followed by week 2, that is setup and development week. In week 2, we have tried to use the Lemon UI component, but that does not work for our design. So in week 3, we started with UI week where we used the end design component, and week 4 is the API integration week where we integrate the login and the link creation part with the API. After week 4, we are having midpoint checking. Moving ahead, we have milestone reached. There is a graph that shows that the milestone that we set on the 22 June are almost to this midpoint. We have completed all the milestones within the time frame set by us. Now it's time for a quick demo of our prototype. Let me share my screen.
Yeah. So my suggestion is on your go to the slide 1, where you said yet another shortened URL, whatever you said there, to sharpen the use case a little bit. Shortened URLs exist. So what is the use case here we are dealing with? And the second, third slide, try to address that story to say what are we trying to do here. But if you go back to the first deck, which talked about the key verbs, the 6 verbs, and we were talking about the 7th verb and so on. Here, what are we trying to do is the key verb shortening, but that already exists. But what are we trying to do as additional verbs that we are trying to introduce here as an extension that Rahul typed in the chat? That's my suggestion. But this is a great start.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Here is the dashboard of yours, where we have sign in and a sign up component. Now, Kanika will tell us about the authentication system.
So as you can see, said that there is no user has been logged in yet. So you will be seeing 2 pages, which is the sign in and the sign up part. Now the user, which is new to the application, he can sign up or he can sign in. So let's see a quick demo of how the sign up works. Okay, so here you can see that the user who has been logged in, his email is being shown on the header side. Now the link creation part would be told by Akshay.
In link creation part, we have the first field that is naming your link, where we get the first field that is link title, followed by the link domain that is a certain URL that is a custom hash ID that we are going to use for our link. After that, we paste the link where we want to redirect and press on the copy button. Following by the next step, we have the sorted URL for the customized link. Pressing enter will redirect us to the link that we want. Next steps are on the building phase. So in the next step, we are going to have the analytic tag where we recommend adding analytic tag that can be used, filter and compare performance of various links. Next step is the third step, which is redirect. Tells us about what if an app is not installed. When the user click on the link, we can take the user to the App Store, open a web page or open a deep link. Fourth step is link data. Add the data you want to pass to your web by this link. This data is also used to configure link functions like routing, attribution, window, etc. All keys and values are case sensitive here. In the last step, we have social media tag. When a link is shared on a social media platform, it's generally shown a preview of title, description, and image. After that, we have a done. That's so your process is complete.
Now we can see that we also have a sign out functionality so that the user can sign out and then sign in also. So that's all about our presentation. We would love to have all the feedbacks from you people.
Over to the panel. Ravi, please.
Sure. All right. Thanks, Rahul. Hey, great presentation, Akshay and Kanika. This is more of a maybe because I've just jumped into the midpoint review. Maybe you guys have already answered this question, but I wanted to understand what was your inspiration behind this project, and how does it fit inside? How does it fit as a building block inside a larger, GovTech ecosystem? And what is the problem, or what are the problems it is trying to solve over here, which is generally faced by today's URL shorteners? Can you just elaborate a little bit on that?
Okay, so let me start with it. So we are trying to build an open source community on which other projects can be made. There are other URL shorteners available, but the thing is that those could not be used independently. They are just apps they are just like independent apps. We want to build something which can be open source, so that newcomers can also like have their ideas, have new features into it, and also it could be used independently by the GovTech. Over to you, actually.
Yeah, in the larger case, we can see if someone is want to suppose you order something from Amazon, and there will a message come as a trackable link system, that you get a message where you can tag the link, but that link is over only for you, that you can also access. But suppose you order something for your parents or some other person, you can share that link to them, so they can be exactly redirect to the same picture, same link where they want to. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, guys. Good work. All the best. Yeah.
Thank you.
Ravi?
No thought from me. I don't know if it's possible. Both Manish and Ravi could, and Rahul could say, I created my short URL. I embedded it in some app, and then whatever, that went downstream. Now, the analytics, the web analytics associated with my shortened URL means I could actually track the hit rates across URLs, which I use for different purposes. Same content, but different targets and different hits, whatever, different footfalls. How do I get to that? It was an interesting extension that came to my mind. I don't know how to do that, but that's an use case that came to my mind.
Okay, like we understood what you're saying, but we actually are also trying to build it in the future, like the number of click rates. And as you said that if you want the click rates for different application, for different web tracks, we can try that. Like we will be also working on that. That's a wonderful use case.
Yeah.
This is I think there's the more to URL shorteners. We've all used it. And especially with respect to building blocks, independent building blocks, I think one is using the link part of it, right? And so let's say I'm building an application and I want to use the link part of it. But with the application, often I need to actually get the entire data back and actually track the usage of it, because the user who's the use case, let's say I build a property tax service. So that person is also interested in how many people are coming, what they are doing. So the whole management part of there. So they're going to some place else to do it is always. So I think hopefully you're building those APIs so that I can pull that data back and display those kind of things. And even if these could potentially, the UI components could be built as libraries, then I can use those widgets in my application themselves. I think through those aspects as well. So I think this is a good where it is headed. I think there is potential here. And the other thing that I did like was you guys have actually planned it out, your weekly. I presume this has been done by all the teams, but I'm here for the first time. I really liked how you guys have organized yourself.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I'll just like to add on the project. Basically, so the major motivation behind this was, let's just have our building blocks set up. And for example, then we can build on top of it a layer of it. For example, if you want to authenticate the shortened URL, so you can get Fusion Auth that is being built by competency path as well. So that it is only the person who is intended to open it opens it. To be done on that of branch.io, you need to build extra layer of something which is not provided by branch.io or other third-party services. So basically, this is just a start wherein we have our building blocks in place. In such a way, we can create a layer of multiple services on top of it, like authenticating a URL, like tracking a URL as shared by Akshay. It is more sort of that only the concerned person should be able to track. It should not be a public link. So we can build a layer on top of for various services.
Yeah, thanks, Manav. Thanks for that.
Rahul, we can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. I think I was saying we're running short on time. So Anushila, if you can just keep us on track, let's keep moving.
Sure. Let's move on to the next presentation. This is also going to be a joint presentation by Arsh and Nilesh. They have been working on the UCI web channel to enhance and upgrade a custom web channel for Sunbird UCI. Over to you, Arsh and Nilesh.
Is my screen visible?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So good morning, everyone. I'm Arshpreet Singh, and I'm from Delhi, and I'm currently pursuing my BTech in CSC from IIT Bhilai. And my friend Nilesh is also from Delhi, and he's pursuing his BTech from VIT Vellore. Me and Nilesh have been working on the UCI web channel, and our focus is primarily on the front-end aspect of this project. Nilesh, hello.
Nilesh is not audible.
Just a second.
Hello, am I audible now?
Yeah, you're audible.
Yeah, so for the past couple of weeks, we both are trying to implement some new features in this app, and we will be showing you all these features through our live demo. And the tech stack that we have been using now is the Next.js and the TypeScript. So our agenda for today's presentation is what is UCI web channel, and why do we want UCI web channel, and what are all the contributions that we have made till now, and what are our future plans that we are planning to implement in future, followed by the live demo of all the features.
So before coming to what is UCI web channel, let's try to understand the need for it. You all would agree with me that the government faces a lot of situations where they need to share information, be it to the citizens of the country or to other government departments. Therefore, they need a good communication channel as we have in our daily life, such as WhatsApp and Telegram, but for specific to government use cases.
Yeah, so keeping this problem in mind, UCI is being developed. So there is a small difference between UCI and a UCI web channel. UCI is a notification infrastructure, a service of managing multi-channel notification with a single API, whereas UCI web channel is a communication channel which is running on the UCI and it is more inclined towards the government usages. Aim of the UCI web channel is to build a cost-effective, open source, customizable communication channel. So, and here are the contributions that we have made till now, which we will be showing you through our demo after our explanation.
So these are some of the features that we are planning to implement in the coming weeks. We want to have an immutable library which will allow other applications to use our app according to their requirements. We would also like to add persistence to our old messages. Currently, the messages that we have already sent are not being saved. We are also planning to improve on the design as well. We are currently trying to add on as many features as we could for now. So these are the Figma designs that we have worked up till now, but we will be improving on it, and maybe we'll like to change it as well. We'll decide it in the coming future. So let's dive into the demo part now. So yeah, this was the initial state of our app. It was primarily built in React.js. So the first thing that we did was migrated the whole project to Next.js because using a framework has its own facilities like easy deployment and a good structure to the project. And we also went with TypeScript because we wanted to handle errors during our development period rather than facing issues during the runtime. And this is the current state of our project. So the first thing I would like to show you all is the OTP-based authentication system that is being used. So this is the JWT token that is there on my system, local storage. I'll first delete it to show you how it is basically built. I'll reload the page, and if I try to access the home page, I will be directed to the login page because I don't have a JWT token in my local storage like that. And now I'll enter my phone number. So I will be provided with an OTP. Just a second. This is basically using Fusion Auth APIs only. I'll enter a wrong OTP first just to test it out. Yeah, so I'll be prompted that it's a wrong OTP. I'm back again in the homepage with the JWT token to identify that I'm a authentic user. The next thing I will like to show you is the one-to-one chart that we have implemented. Just suppose that these are two channels used by two different clients, so we can message each other like that. Sorry, just a second. It's very like on a foundational level now. We were actually working on it last night only. So yeah, we can do these things as well. The couple of more features that we added for better accessibility was a toggle button which can toggle between the light and the dark theme. We also added the font size changer, which allow you to change font size. We basically got this idea from the Covin website itself. We have a settings page which will allow you to change your name and your bio as well. Just like that. And our wallpaper also we can change of among the predefined wallpapers we have. So yeah, that's it from our side, and we'll be happy to take all the feedbacks. And thanks to all the to the mentors that provided us with the mentorship.
Great, nice work.
Rahul, you are on mute. Okay, good. So fantastic work, yeah. First of all, again, good focus on problem statement, number one. Second, great designs, good start, all the great stuff. In the limited time, just to make this a little bit more meaty, in GovTech, Gov Communications, one of the key thing is verifiable reception. Accountable reception, meaning that when I send you a letter, I expect you to send me a acknowledgement back saying that you received it, like if you're using court notices and so on and so forth, right? It's not about one-way communication, right? It's about actually saying that you received it, therefore you are accountable to act on it, as one example, right? So building in a little bit of accountable reception and verifiable accountable reception is one additional thing that I thought that will make this even more meatier. You guys have all the stuff going, so you just need to think about that verb coming into this story. But great start.
Thank you, sir. Definitely we'll work on that.
Yeah, Ravi, please go ahead.
Sure. Hey, Arsh and Nilesh, super fantastic work, guys. So I just had a couple of thoughts, and given that I think the problem statement is very, very real and it can appeal to almost any person in the country. I was also thinking if you are thinking of features like language translation, right? Especially, for example, if government is announcing something, right? Assuming there's an interface at the side. Now, if to me, if you are sending an announcement, is there a way to translate that into a language that is, language of my choice? And actually, I should receive that message in the language of my choice, right? That would be a very nice feature addition. And if you could layer that on top of such an interface, then it will be a +1 on existing systems. And even that translation engine or that small part can be open sourced as a building block as well, right? So I think of scale, think of population scale, especially think of and keep in mind the diversity of people and the way they communicate in our country, right? Now, let's say, for example, what if somebody has just a feature phone? Let's say, I mean, assuming that smartphones are not all prevalent right now. Let's say somebody has a feature phone or somebody has some other device. If you can translate the form, okay, of the message into something which that person is more familiar with, right? Maybe I get a text message or maybe I get a call back, right? Could be anything, right? So see if you can architect this solution as the messaging as the core building block, and then you have the harnesses this messaging technology in come as a text message side, or I could text loudspeaker on a public street, right? Think at that level and see what all use cases you can actually capture. I mean, I really like the fact that you have done it API first, which is very nice, right? I think that's good architecture to begin with, right? But think of large scale use cases, think of population scale, how broadcasts work, how multicast work, how you can do context based messaging. Like, for example, if is it a healthcare based message, or is it something related to, let's say there is a riot in some city, right? And then you have to issue this thing, section, what is that, which doesn't allow more than 5 people, right? Those kind of announcement, if it's going out, right, how does it get communicated? So think scale and see if you can come up with an architecture that can handle that level of scale, right, using this core technology. But yeah, fantastic work, guys. Super happy to see this.
Thank you so much for the feedback, sir. I'll look into it. Thank you.
Thanks, Ravi. Manish, any comments?
Yeah, I think Ravi's also already mentioned, but I think, Rahul, this is more of our discussion in the building blocks. I think when we are getting UI developed, we should always ensure those UIs are embeddable in other applications. I think that's something that we shouldn't build it as a standalone applications, always build it as embeddable UI so that you can embed it into other user interfaces, because
absolutely, no, that's really the goal of this project. So definitely would do that. JB, any additional comments to close?
First of all, I love the fact that you've been actually following UCI and been contributing to UCI. So I am looking forward to using your work in our work of UCI. So just look at a customer is sitting in the panel also. Okay.
Looking forward to it, sir. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Anishila, let's go on.
Yeah. Great. Good work, Arsh and Nilesh. We can move on to Deep Darshan. He has been working on the QUML project that is basically for setting up of question banks for practice and assessment. Over to you.
Are we seeing?
We can't hear you or see your screen yet.
We just put a question mark next to that statement, then we are in business.
Yeah, Deep Darshan, we can see your screen, but you're on mute and we can't hear you. Yeah, we can hear you now. See you now.
Yes, ma'am. Like, is my screen is visible now?
Yes.
So good morning, everybody. My name is Deep Darshan and I am pursuing my bachelor's degree in computer science and technology from Sri Mata Vaisudevi University. And in this summer, I am contributing to Sunward QML player as the part of C4GT, which is mentored by Karthikeya Pal sir. So the points I'm going to discuss in this presentation is like introduction to Sunward QML player, the key feature needed to be implemented, progress till now, and live demos and my future plans for this project. So what is like Sunward QML player? So Sunward QML player is an open source Angular based library which is used by creators to set up questions and question banks, and that can be used in various use cases like setting up quizzes, assignments, worksheets, everything. And as it is an Angular based library, sir, it can be used in any of the Angular app. It's just we need to embed it and use it. So it has currently some key features like it supports the creation of MCQ type and subjective type questions. It supports the configuration of question set behavior by shuffling the questions, which will enable the consumer not to cheat in exam easily. And it supports the tagging the questions with some meaningful data and supports the offline access of published data also. So like, let's understand what's the workflow of it. So creators create a question of MCQ or subjective type, and it will be stored in our Sunward QML player, and consumer use it. So that it's lagging some of the key features, like it currently don't support the shuffling of options, which like through that, like we can ensure that user can't cheat easily. And it also not support the type of multiple correct answer. So it will enable us to it will enable creators to get in-depth knowledge check of the students. So like I am currently working on the shuffling part, and in progress you can see like when the question is not shuffled, it will look like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and when it is shuffled like 3, 1, 4, 1, 4, 2. So talking about my live demo. So you can see like you can see like when I goes to shuffling the question, like you can see like for 1, 1 it's like currently 3, 2, for 2, 2 it's 4, 5, and when I again do the visit to these questions. It's 3-2, then 4-5. I'm getting. Sorry, sir. Like it again given me some bugs. I'm not sure
Don't
why.
worry, don't worry. No,
No
don't worry.
worries.
I think
Yeah.
we got the idea.
Yeah.
We got the idea. You showed
There is
us
nobody in the call
the
who has not faced a bug during a live demo. So
Yes,
we
sir.
all
Like
can.
every time I present, it gives me some bugs. So
No,
like
don't
talking
worry.
about my future plans, like I will be working on enabling the MCQ type questions in my future as the part of C4GT, and I am also writing the unit test cases and documentation for what I have done as the part of C4GT. So thank you everyone.
No, very nice, Deepdarshan, and don't worry about the demo. We got an idea, so don't worry. We saw the shuffling of questions, so great job. And we've all had our demos fail in front of thousands of people in a keynote address. So we've all been there. Don't worry, it's part of life.
Yes.
Over to the panel.
Yeah, so it's called Murphy's Law, and there is a law named after a guy. Therefore, it has worked so much for me. Many times it has costed my job and reputation, and I still am at it. So, first of all, on the platform that you are doing the shuffling and multiple choice MCMQs and all,
yes, sir.
There must be easily couple million questions,
yes,
and at least, let's say, close to 500,000 people who know how to do this. Therefore, they would be delighted to see that I can create more powerful questions and deliver it to students, right? And then whatever number of students that Braul mentioned, 200 million, they know how to mess with this. So small improvements actually mean a lot to a lot of people. So
yes,
I'm looking forward to making this work and seeing the content in this space by the teachers on the ground, by the content creators in future, across sectors. Today it's education, but it's across sectors in future.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So Deep, if I understood this correctly, so you're building a editor as well as a playing part, right? Rendering
Yes,
part,
sir.
both
Yes.
sides.
Yes,
and the underlying building block is the Sunbird QML.
Sunbird. Yes, sir.
Perfect. Makes
Thank
sense.
you.
Makes sense. Very good.
Ravi?
Yeah. So Deepdarshan, so I have a couple of things. Okay. One, I think I like the fact that you are shuffling this, but given that this could, from what I'm seeing, this could be something which people would be doing already, right? I want you to also focus on something which I had mentioned earlier. This being an API first approach, right? What
Yes.
if I feed you a set of questions, okay, or feed a set of strings, okay, right? And I need you to shuffle them in a certain order, right, in a certain pattern,
Okay.
completely random, okay, right?
Yes.
That core shuffling technology itself would not just be used in question papers, which is just one use case, but the core shuffling technology can be actually used for lots of things. It can even be used for video scrambling, if you really think about it, right? Like in set-top boxes, the way videos come, all the frames are all scrambled in various places, right? And the set-top box, your smart card reader actually has the code which allows you to descramble all of that and actually create that one video, right? So focus on creating extremely strong building blocks, right? That is the focus of this whole thing. Shuffling should be a separate API, right? Add question should be a separate API, right? Shuffle, and you link those two APIs together and make them shuffle with each other, so that this core shuffling code base can be used in a lot more use cases. That's how you achieve scale.
Yes,
right?
I like it's the great.
A lot of things that could be shuffled. Yeah, you don't know. You can shuffle, placebo test groups and all, right? Like lots of things, the use cases that can happen in the entire world. So yeah, good motivation here. And don't worry about the demo not working. We're all been there. But yeah, keep at it, man. Thanks, fantastic.
Thank you.
Golden words, Ravi. Thank you for giving us that architectural perspective. That's exactly what we all need to learn. All right, moving on then. I think, Sheila, we'll go on to the next project.
Yeah, next is Himanshi. Himanshi has also been working on the same project. Himanshi, over to you.
Mm. Is my screen visible?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Himanshi. Start.
Hello everyone. I hope you all are doing well. I'm Himanshi from IIT Jodhpur working on Sunbird QML Player project under Kartik Palla. By the end of the meeting, I'm hoping to give you a brief about this project updates, and a live demo as well. After the pandemic, we all have realized the importance of online education. So we are looking for an app. It can be mobile app, desktop app to conduct the online assessment. Diksha, the national learning platform, is one of them, which uses Sunbird building block. And Sunbird QML player is responsible for rendering the questions. Here is the view which you will get if you will open Sunbird QML player as your mobile app. So let's take a look over the progress till now. I started by building the setup for this project, played around the code a little bit, and then shuffling option feature was implemented, and I'm still working on multi-correct MCQ feature. Now let's understand what exactly these feature means. Say there are two students giving an online assessment. Say those students are player P and player Q. They are giving the same assessment, and for a particular question, before the implementation of shuffling option, the option order for both the player is same. You can observe the option order is 1, 2, 3, and 4. And for player Q, it is also same 1, 2, 3, and 4. But after the shuffling option, now for player P, the order is different, and for player Q, the order is different, as you can observe here. So what is multi-correct option? Before the implementation, the player is able to choose only one option. As you can see, before it, the player is choosing only one option. But after this, now player has the right to choose more than one option, and hence we can conduct a assessment which contains multi-correct MCQ type questions. Let's take a quick live demo. So before the implementation, if a player is taking this assessment, intentionally I have put the option order like 1, 2, 3, 4, so the option order is visible easily to everyone. So you can see for every option, the order is 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, if the user decided to replay this, you will observe that the option order is still 1, 2, 3, and 4. But after the shuffling options, just remember this one particular question, 1 plus 0. The order is 1, 2, 4, and 3. Or you can remember for any other question. Now, if the user decided to replay that question or replay that assessment, you will see now the order has changed. It's 2, 4, 3, and 1. So it will prevent basically cheating in assessment and all that. And for multi-correct MCQ type, I'm still working on the scoring policy for multi-correct MCQ. For my future plans.
Himanshi, I think your screen is frozen on the QUML player.
Okay. I'm sorry.
One thing that would also help, Himanshi, is if you can just clarify, what is the division of work between you and the previous presenter, because from our perspective, both are shuffling. So I think a little confused as to what is the split, if you can clarify.
Actually, sir, we were working independently. So we both implemented the shuffling option independently.
Acha, that's not a good thing. This should be, I think, yeah. So any mentor want to chime in? Chakshu, Shruti, you want to say how are we, merging this? Why are we working on a similar thing? Getting them familiar with. I think this is a goal here is to get you familiar with QML Sunbird Player and then build on more features on top of it. I think that's the way this needs to go through.
Actually, sir, we were told to do the work independently. That's why.
Okay. No, I think that's good. I think QML player, right? Like JB mentioned, QML player is a very, very critical piece of infrastructure used in education in India today. Almost every state, most states like we're familiar with Haryana, Himachal and all, every app has a QML player in there. It's powering every assessment being taken by every student almost in the country. So it is a very critical part which needs a lot more features. Now this shuffling is a very nice hello world to get started with. Now, once you get this right, I'm glad two of you are now familiar with Sunbird QML player. Now I think you'll go on to build bigger and bigger things over the next couple of weeks. So nice work. I think you're good that you've all ramped up on it.
Sir, can I show my demo? I think my screen wasn't visible.
Yeah, your screen is visible. I think we saw the demo. Go ahead.
But after the shuffling option, just remember this one particular question, 1 plus 0. For first time, the order is 4, 3, 1 and 2. Let's play this game again. Now for 1 plus 0, it's 4, 1, 2 and 3, which has been changed now. So this will prevent cheating in the assessment or help in better conduction of assessment.
Yes.
Oh, nice work. Any thoughts? So I think we've gotten feedback on the shuffling options. I think all the things that Ravi mentioned very critical. So great work. One different question I'll probably ask, and panel can probably chime in with questions along that lines. How easy or difficult did you find ramping up on Sunbird QML player? What was your experience like? Because it's one of the critical Sunbird building blocks. Just curious from your perspective, how was it to ramp up?
It was very nice. We got a lot of stuff from the documentation of Sunbird QML. I just go through the Sunbird inquiry documentation, then QML particular documentation. Then I came to know how they are setting the question bank. For this project, they are also taking questions in very different format, whether the question setter. So the teacher, if they want to give in PDF format, or they're in different. So I get to know a lot through the documentation, and I'm really happy. Actually, both the parents are teacher, and they use this Diksha platform during the COVID time. So it was really great to know about these things, what exactly using and how it is implemented. It's just nice to know.
No, very good to know that the documentation existed, and that's nice. Alok, if you're hearing, very nice to hear. JB, good music to ears, right?
So Himanshi, Alok single-handedly drew the documentation maybe in 2020 to 21. So if there is one person who has given him good feedback, that is you right now. Most of them, they say there's no documentation only. Nobody says documentation is complete. So by the way, one additional feedback. First of all, great job ramping up on a production code. I generally hear that Sunbird is pretty heavy. So you kind of coming on board and doing it is fantastic. One suggestion I have, see if you can extend this to make it part of the production code by doing a complete PR, whatever is the quality requirement that it takes to do the PR. The reason why I'm saying so is there are many variants of Sunbird. Diksha is powered by Sunbird Ed, but this QML, the APIs, and all of those building blocks actually power multiple other solutions, including Sunbird's capacity building, which will actually educate adults, capacity build adults also. So therefore, this can actually be very useful there. More importantly, I see this one is actually a good examination feature, but also it's a good recap feature. When I am having the same options, when I go back to it again, my mind is now even the options are memorized. So it's a good recap process where you are challenged on your thinking and understanding.
Thank you, sir.
Great thoughts. So should we, Anushila, should we go on to the next one?
Sure. Next is Hardik. Hardik has been working on Shiksha CMS. Shiksha is an EdTech product. He's been working on creating a new adapter for the same. So Hardik, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Anushila. Am I audible? Can anyone come?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you please confirm if my screen is visible?
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, good morning, everyone. I'm Hardik. I'm currently in the final year of my BTech degree. I'm pursuing it from NIT Kurukshetra, and I'm working on Shiksha CMS and announcements model. So let us get started with the background, the requirement for Shiksha as a whole. So we saw that after COVID-19 pandemic, we saw a high increase in the enrollment in government schools. So this UDISC 2021 report says that 3.97 million students enrolled in government schools in the last fiscal year. And now we see that there is more focus on digital education, especially after the introduction of national education policy. And hence, it is needed that we have a federated, agile, and efficient public education solution. Because as we see that the government education sector in India is very diverse, very complex. So hence the need of an agile and efficient and federated public education system is there. And keeping this in mind, the government introduced National Digital Education Architecture, NDI. Now, what is NDI? It is a framework that promises to implement federated, unbundled, interoperable, inclusive, accessible, and evolving blocks. So I'll get back to these in detail if there is time left at the end of the slides. So this is NDI basically. So it is not a particular software solution. It is a set of framework and architectures that need to be implemented in GovTech products. So let us see what is the importance of Shiksha. Shiksha is a digital learning solution for the public school system based on NDI blocks, and it is a set of extensible, federated, and interoperable modules. Both three of which are forming the core of the Shiksha, the NDI blocks. So it has some modules already implemented in it, which are notification, attendance, worksheets, and timetable. So these are already integrated in the Shiksha platform. The two key features of Shiksha are ease of use, that is a good user interface and simplicity, and configurability. Shiksha is highly configurable, and the deployers can adapt it to their need and requirements. And so it has been designed to be highly configurable as well. So let me now tell you about my project. It is a CMS and announcements module. So basically, it is composed of two parts. One is the CMS module, which allows us to create static pages like landing pages, FAQ pages, which are not necessarily interactive or functional, using an admin portal. Like we have in normal CMS like WordPress. So we have a CMS for Shiksha. Now, the idea that I've used here is that each page will be made of independent blocks, akin to have in Notion and Google Forms, that we create independent blocks, which are different UI components. They can be populated and managed from admin portal. The data can be populated within there. Also, we have the announcements module, which again is responsible for managing key announcements which the authorities are going to send to the students. And these also can be managed from the admin portal. They can save any announcement as a draft, and there is an option of pinned announcements as well. So the value addition, these two features, they have the support for regional languages, and they'll ensure enhanced communication between students and authorities and easier management of information, and so on. Now let us talk about the architecture of this. So we have for the announcements module, the announcements page and the admin portal. So this is going to show all the announcements, and this is going to be used for managing them. So these are through a REST API, these are interacting with the Nest.js backend, which in turn uses Hasura to communicate with a PostgreSQL database. And so, and GraphQL API are used in between. So let me tell you the milestone that I have achieved until now. So announcements view with infinite scroll has been implemented as the user scrolls down based on a configurable page size, like we have in Instagram. Some more announcements keep on coming on the screen. Dynamic tags in announcement, I'll be showing this in the demo. and pinned announcements in the announcements page and create announcements from the admin page. So let me just take you through the demo. So this is the announcements page. This has been designed keeping in mind the existing design schema for Shiksha platform. Now these are the pinned announcements which are visible on top of the screen. And there are two types. One is the dismissible and other is the non-dismissible. So I can click here and I can dismiss it. So this also can be configurable from the backend. Now when I click on an announcement, I get this information here and I can have these dynamic tags configured from the backend. So, and as I scroll down, the infinite scroll features seen here. Currently I've set a page size of 2. So as you can see that the announcements are in this. We also have the filter options. We also have this backend where I can create an announcement and like I can set it to be a pinned announcement and a dismissible announcement. And as I save it, I can see that it gets reflected here. See this. So this is all about the product. Now, so yeah, I've used the existing design Shiksha design system and style guides, and module federation has been there, which is a part of the India architecture at both the front end and the back end. And the components are designed to be highly extensible and configurable, and the schemas as well as the database. So for the endpoint check-in, I plan to add configurability to the announcements and CMS module. Yeah, just the last, so creating content pages, displaying content pages, which is the second part of my project, and also creating help pages for modules like attendance using the CMS module, creating a custom homepage for Shiksha as well, using the same CMS module. So thank you for your time. If you have any questions.
Nice work. Over to the panel.
So very well thought through, Hardik. Super. I mean, very structured, very layered. I really like the way that you have taken the NDR architecture and then try to build around it. I think this is fantastic. Please keep going in the same path. I think this is going to lead to something very good. Yeah.
Thanks.
So one thought that was coming to my mind, extending the great work that you have done, is announcement by announcement to, so that it becomes a component that can be fitted between let's say an actor, want to create an announcement to a user group, generally an island of people, multiple islands of people in a system. Not everybody receives the same announcement, right? So that capability as a component, designed as a component, not as an endpoint. Endpoint is needed, but this thinking, see if you want to go with your mentor and think about that. But announcement is a very important feature. Most of the time, announcements are all over the place. If you go to any government website, it is just full of announcements only. And much of the capabilities that you are talking about doesn't exist there. Oh. Great job.
Very cool. Manish, any thoughts before we go to the next one?
So, firstly, I think the same comment Ravi made, the way top-down thinking process or bottom-up, whichever way you want to talk it, starting with NDR and then thinking it through, I think that process is highly appreciated. I think having a deep understanding of what NDR is achieving to do, what is the architecture, and hence building your APIs and then building your experience. I think that thought process is, I really liked how you put that through, and I think that's the right way to think about it, in at least from an architectural construct. So I really like that. I think, so Rahul, are these initiatives to build on top of the building blocks in terms of user interfaces, etc., or are you also looking at, like Jagadish was saying, enhancing those building blocks, or both is going on? So I wanted to understand that, what was the scope given? So otherwise, this is a good work that is going on.
Yeah, so like there have been already some modules of Shiksha. So on top of them, I've created these announcements in the CMS module.
think about, like Jagadish was saying, you could potentially identify some of the features and actually push it back down in terms of what enhancements or components can be built on top of existing APIs as well. Don't just think only on the UI part.
Sure, sir. I'll keep that in. Thank you.
Great. Ravi, you had some thoughts?
Yeah, just one more point. I think it would be very helpful, Hardik, if you could also, in one of your slides, showcase how this platform or this infrastructure fits into the overall India ecosystem. Actually, it would give a very good, view to the external audience as to, okay, how I can use this and how it can be connected to other blocks as well. So I think, see if you can add that in your deck as well. I think that would be very good.
Sure, sir.
Yeah, I think just putting on there's an integration between this and the UCI. There's a lot of stuff that you can do.
Yeah, exactly. And these are all modules. That's why Shiksha is basically building blocks on the front end. We've always built a lot of good building blocks on the back end. Shiksha is an attempt at building blocks on the front end. So hopefully a lot of these jigsaw puzzle pieces on the front end can be joined together to make experiences. Wonderful work, great work. So Anashila, let's go on.
Yeah, great. Next is Siddhant. Siddhant has also been working on Shiksha, particularly on the front end aspect and creation of content pages, etc. So Siddhant, over to you.
Is my screen visible?
Yeah.
Okay, so good morning everyone. My name is Siddhant and I'm a student of NSUT. For the last few weeks, I've been working on the Shiksha project under the guidance of Ashwin sir. Yeah, so in this presentation, I will have to go over these points one by one. So starting with, let's talk about a bit about Shiksha. So what exactly is Shiksha? Shiksha is a platform which is based upon the India building blocks by the government of India. India is basically an architectural blueprint that we can say lays down the various frameworks to be used. It was then created to help implementing the national education policy of 2020. Shiksha helps us to create a highly configurable end-user experience. Now, I would like to discuss a bit about the architecture of Shiksha as of now. Shiksha follows something called as a micro front-end approach, in which we are dividing the functionality of the application into multiple independent modules. So this is an example right now that shows how the micro front-end works. We have a single teacher app here, which is using the various micro front-ends class app, attendance app, and the worksheet app. Now, this interacts with our API, which is in the backend, to get the required data. Now, with the tech stack we are using in this project, we are using the Yerna tool for managing the mono repositories. As I mentioned, we are using a micro front-end approach here. So that is basically used to ensure that there is no, we can say, duplication of our dependencies here. We are also using React Native ways to make a highly responsive design for both mobile and desktop devices. We are also thinking of implementing the TypeScript language to basically have a better development environment. And lastly, we're also deciding to use the storybook for making documentation. So far we have the following modules. We have the attendance module, assessment, calendar, classes, common lib, core, notification, profile, student, teacher app, and worksheet. I have been working on the attendance app for the refactoring part. So the goals of this project is to first migrate to TypeScript, as I mentioned. The second goal is to refactor the code base, because right now there is a lot of, you can say, heavy and bulky components. Like we are having components which are containing more than 1,000 lines, which is not ideal for a React-based project. And our third goal is to add some documentation using the React storybook. And the fourth and final goal is to increase the coverage of our testing in the code base. Now for the progress so far, I have first of all added the dependencies, which basically includes TypeScript as well as some of the additional configuration which is needed to make TypeScript work with our Lerna and our storybook-based setup. And also I've been working on the refactoring as I mentioned, and right now storybook is currently a work in progress. Now to show how much difference refactoring has made, I will have to show a small diagram. So this is our structure of application before the refactoring was done. So we can see that right now there are components which are having more than 1,200 lines, 1,000 lines, and so on. So this is actually not ideal at all for a beginner, or you can say even for a development perspective. So now after refactoring, I have finally managed to, we can say, bring down the code to this amount. So instead of having 200 lines in reports, we are having just 700. In attendance, we are having just 339 lines, and so on. We have reduced the size by a major amount. So all in all, we have roughly reduced the bulkiness of each component by 60%. Now, this is actually a very significant thing because this makes it much easier for a new developer to get into the development. Like if a new developer comes and they look at the size of a component, like 1,000 lines is very overwhelming. For me, also it took me about 2 or 3 days just to get used to the overall code base. So having a reduced size is actually very beneficial for both beginners as well as existing developers. Now we have to give you a small demo of how the storybook works. Now to run the storybook, we use the command which I specified here, and this will automatically begin the compilation process. Now I have already have a compiled version of the storybook which is here. So this is our storybook. The storybook acts as a visual documentation for each component. So here we can see that our calendar bar component, which is a composite component, has the following appearance when we are passing these particular props. That right now we are having the view being set as the days, right? So similarly, we have the week view, which basically shows how it looks when we are passing week as the view parameter. And there we are having like also the summary and all that. So this actually really helps for a developer to like implement these particular components in their own application. Like they won't have to code a single line to see how this component will look. And this can really help to speed up the development process. Now, as for the future goals, my first obviously goal is to add the visual testing to our attendance module, because right now we are having yes coverage of our code base, so we want to add visual testing to increase our testing. The second goal is to add the same procedure for the other modules also, because right now only attendance has been done. We also need to implement it in more than like 10 modules. And the third goal is to also write a development guide so that any future developer can also follow, like contribute to this particular application. So thank you. That was all from my side. I am looking forward to your feedback.
Wonderful job, Siddhant. One of the best presentations I've seen in expressing what refactoring means, the impact of refactoring, where it fits into the bigger picture, expressing lines of code saved and so on. Very, very nice. Over to the panel.
I think I really like, rather than adding functionality, you're trying to refactor, which very few people try to do. And I think that's an important aspect of doing this and making it simpler. Everybody wants to do new features, but I think ensuring robustness and ensuring ease of use, especially in open source projects, is so critical. And I'm very glad somebody is thinking in those lines. Fascinating. I have no clue of Lerna. I need to go back and learn that. So I have no comments on that.
Okay, thanks, Manish. Over to you, Ravi.
Hey, thanks, Rahul. Siddhant, so I'm going to try to sort of break some walls here and look at just attendance as a concept. Okay, right? Attendance as a concept is universal, right? Everybody is expecting somebody to be there at a certain time, and there is somebody who wants to be, at time based on somebody's expectations, right? There are two people always involved, right? Somebody who's taking the attendance, somebody who is giving the attendance, right? If you break those walls and of attendance just being confined to a classroom, suddenly a whole ecosystem opens up, right? There could be patients who need to be present at a certain time. There could be, I could probably, open it up to gym attendance. I probably need to, check in, check out from my office. Just open up that. And if you just focus on attendance as an API, right? Just attendance, just a core building block as an attendance. And then sort of look at how that applies to every single sector where a person needs to be present at certain point, right? Then you're looking at something extremely large scale, right? And that could have fantastic applications across everywhere, not just in government sector, but in private sector, anywhere. Attendance making two people meet at a particular point in space and time is even a persistent problem, like even today, right? So I think that if you can focus on that as a small building block, I think that could have tremendous applications in the large scale ecosystem.
Yes, sir. I'll keep that in mind. Thank you.
Very hard hitting, Ravi. Thanks for those little nuggets of advice. JB, any thoughts?
Yeah. So first of all, refactoring is like cleaning the kitchen sink. Generally, all the guests will leave before task is taken up. All the victories are proclaimed before somebody is to go clean it up. And taking it up as a task, that was what I did for my masters. Taking a piece of code and implementing it in assembly to a point where you can cycle half a cycle, 1 cycle, 2 cycles on a task to make a video player real time. That was 1995, where video player becoming real time is like a big deal. But you have to save here and there to actually achieve it. But coming back to Ravi's point, no, the attendance is a universal problem. It just got me thinking. Just 2 lines, and after that I'll let you go back to refactoring. Maybe, think a little bit deeper to see. There are 2 verbs critically there, 3 verbs rather. One proclaims or declares that I was here, I am in this room. That's the first declaration. The second fellow says, I attest that you are there. That's part of the attendance. The third fellow says, I want to discover who was the person present and who was the person who was attesting. That's the third person sitting somewhere else. Register leke aao, main dekhna chahta hu ki kaun kidhar tha. Right? That's the third fellow. Right? So these are the 3 critical functions in an attendance system. Now, generally speaking, we all think about that, one form where you press a button, somebody says, this breaking up is never thought of. The fact that teacher saw the student attesting that I saw you there, that function is not there. You just put up a form and put up a radio button there, right? But thinking about it, then you can actually unbundle it. So gym and hospital and prison, wherever else you can think about attendance, you can think about that.
Yes, sir. Sure, I will keep that in mind.
Superb, JV. Thank you. Thank you. Actually, you know what? We've all learned from JV the whole concept of nouns and verbs. Keep hammering it in on every presentation, no matter how high level you go, right? And even Ravi has this wonderful exercise where he creates a community to start adding nouns and verbs, and together, a whole knowledge diagram comes and it turns into an API spec. So guys, one tips is to keep contributing in these groups, because you would be then invited to a bunch of these meetups. So every Sunbird building block has a meetup every Friday or every Thursday. A lot of very interesting exercises like this. Like if you found these discussion, this feedback from Manish, Jagadish and Ravi helpful, right? It's highly technical, architectural. These are things that nobody teaches you, not even in a job. But these are things that you would learn if you're part of these meetups. And in these meetups, there are very interesting exercises where on a common document, right? Ravi, on one of the Beckn calls, he opened up a draw.io doc and said, everyone put in whatever verbs that you have there. And it was a mess because there were like 40 people on the call and it was a mess there. But then everyone started self-organizing. And within 15 minutes, you had the key verbs, nouns, everything for that. And out of that, the API just came out automatically. It was best consensus driving model of building an API. So these are it's not just about, what is technically perfect at the end. It is about what is the process to get there. And so please listen carefully to every word these gurus are telling us. Nouns, verbs, the process with which they're thinking. Think about that, right? Even shuffling, something as simple as shuffling, Ravi tore into it saying, no, why isn't that also a microservice, right? Why is that not an API? Because it is an important piece. So please keep listening to these, implementing it in every particular, thing that you're working on. All right, let's then go on, Anushila.
Great. Next, we have Harshil, who has been working on admin for Sunbird RC registry and credentials. So over to you, Harshil.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Harshil Jani, and I'm a BTech student and will be entering in my 3rd year and studying at NIT Surat. And the project is EkSadmin, which is an admin for Sunbird RC, and mentors are Shruti ma'am and Chakshu sir. So today we would be talking about Sunbird RC, EkSadmin, planned features for the project, and then I will be giving you guys live demo, and then we will discuss the end state of the project. So Sunbird RC is an open source framework to build electronic registries, testing capabilities and verifying credentialities. Basically, there is a schema defined in the Sunbird RC, and based on that schemas, APIs are running in Sunbird RC. Currently, it only has APIs, so it leads to a slower feedback loop. So for that, we have a solution which is an admin. So what admin does is it just catches the APIs from RC, and it just passes to admin panel. And on admin panel, you can just change those APIs quickly. But the part of project, the main part of the project is this admin generator. We don't like if we have any change in schemas, then we don't need to also change the admin panel. We already have a admin generator, so that if we change the schema, it will pass through a generator and it will auto update the admin panel. And if you update the admin panel, then it will automatically even update the APIs. So the planned features for the project are connecting it with the Sunbird RC's API. Currently, we just have the MOOC API based on the RC's config schema, and then also make the generator more generic and customize the UI and write the Docker image, because currently in MOOC API we are using JSON server. So in real schemas and API from Sunbird RCs, we need to update the Docker image and then document the journey. So I will be now giving you a live demo. And we are using human code generator. So when you write you create RC admin, then it will ask you a set of questions. So let's say you want to create an educational registry, and endpoint of our API will be teacher for the time being. Since it will take time, I already have demo running. So yeah, when the education which we passed will be reflected over here. So it welcomes you with this dashboard, and then you can go to your teacher's endpoint where all things from your API would be fetched and it would be shown. So you can also create a new, let's say, new entry. Okay, so when you update it here, so you see it just gets reflected on the API. Similarly, you can also edit any existing entities. Just a minute. Okay, so here it is gone. So you can apply CRUD operations to it. Meanwhile, let's just see. Okay, so we already have this files generated automatically. Now let's say here we don't need gender anymore. So in the config schema of Sunbird RC, we would just remove the gender field. And then we would just go, and as you can see, oh, just a minute. Okay, so now gender field is gone. Now everything is loading perfectly, and the gender field is one. So from the schema itself, we can update the APIs, and from admin also we can update it. So it is both way communication. So end state of the project is auto-generated read using config. We have this config.json, which will be defining what all entities we want on the admin to be displayed from the schema. So we compare both, and if the entity is found, then we would be displaying it on the admin. And we can auto-generate the CRUD operations also from the config and manage the schema through React admin. Thank you.
Wonderful work, wonderful work. Taking two different building blocks, joining them together. I wish, this was a demo at the NDR thing in Varanasi on Friday. Every university completely scratching their heads. How do we even go about this registry? Everyone is saying registry, but make it real for us, make it visual for us. So this is a very nice one. So over to the panel. JB, you want to get started?
So Harshal, what I understood was it's Sunbird, using Sunbird made easy for admin.
Yes.
That's the headline of your session, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So first, make sure the first two slides are English and not computer science, so that people, your target users are the people who have to get it. Otherwise, all the great work will be lost. Number one. Number two, generally speaking, what I have seen in the last 1.5 years, even now, is that people go back to the old ways of thinking, which is database, where some middle layers are applying the CRUD on it and then making sure that that's authentic data, and reams of stories that go on. And beyond a point, the data will be useless because it's all junk. There is no actual cleaning up operations that involves the first party. So here with this, more and more it will become useful and usable, and therefore more admins will start using it. I guess that's the first mile, adoption friction which this will solve. and therefore they will start using it. That means our data will start becoming more and more cleaner. That's a great job.
Thank you.
Thanks for the thoughts, JB. Very helpful. Manish, you want to go next?
Yeah, I think I'll keep saying, we build the building block. One is the robustness aspect. The more robust we keep making it, the more difficult we make it to use. So I think I think we need to, all of these building blocks need to be made easy to use. And I think the work Harshil is doing is really makes the RC block very easy to use. And I think so we need to have for all the building blocks, the robustness side of things, which I think all of our architects get very excited about. But then the ease of use side, I think we do a poor job in many ways. So I think that's an area where we need to really, and this work is superb on that side.
Great, Manish. Ravi, quick thoughts, anything?
Yeah. So I think it would also help if there was some sort of like a guided sort of tour as well. Like, I mean, not tour exactly, but like almost like a handheld wizard sort of a place where a person who is configuring the admin panel, right, can actually know what the next step is, right? Like, okay, first do this. Like, are you new here? First question, right? Okay, and if you are new, then how do you proceed, right? Would you like to see a sample walkthrough, right? I think you see that in nowadays in in IDs and all. You see, okay, did you know, a small pop-up comes and it tells you, hey, these are the new things that have come. Would you like to take or maybe me to take you through all of these new features, etc. That was one thing. And I think I think one important part of this is not specifically focused on low code or anything, but this is more about making things easier. See if you can add multi-lang support as well, because not everybody is going to be focused in on, I mean, must be well versed in English only. So see if you can do that in a multi-language format.
Yes, we'll look into it, definitely. Thank you.
I mean, this is like a general thing for everything. I mean, especially if you're making something for scale and for open source, especially for GovTech, multi-lang is paramount. I think because we have like 29, 30 states now. I don't know, God knows how many we're going to have later on, and so many 22 different languages and hundreds of dialects, right? So I think multi-lang is like a base building block in almost every single building block of GovTech, especially the ecosystem.
Wonderful thoughts, Ravi. Thanks so much. Thanks, man.
I'll just make the point of, people who have to solve the hardest problem in the states and local bodies who need these tools that we are building that have the lowest capacity. So I think ease of use is so important. I can't stress on it more.
So today morning, just to amplify Manish on this, morning when I was driving in, it just occurred to me, it's not GovTech actually, it is C-Tech, Common Man Tech. So when you're talking about a Common Man Tech, Ravi's point on that feature phone, government folks wanting simple stuff, it has to be thought along those lines, and so this kind of stuff would work very well.
Very cool, very well said. Thanks all, very nice thoughts. So then moving on, I think next we have the machine learning stuff, a very entire opposite end of the spectrum. So let's go next. And Janvi up?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead. And please, guys, we all go by first names. So, no sirs here. We are all equal. In fact, some of you are teaching us how to do open source better. So in the open source world, there's first names. So please use them, please. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, sir. Good morning, everyone. My name is Chanvi Lande. I'm a final year at IIT Guwahati, and I, along with Pratyaksh, have been contributors to the machine learning project. So in the GovTech use case, there are enormous amount of data in various government domains, such as education, healthcare, agriculture. So the goal of this project is basically to make use of this data. We're trying to build an end-to-end machine learning solution that allows anyone to train, deploy, query, and monitor different machine learning models for government use cases. So some of the features that we're trying to include are training data sets and building a feature store, integration with the common ML models that are out there, model training, a deployment pipeline, and a dashboard to deploy these models. So we're trying to build APIs for all of these. Here on, I'll just go on with the architecture of the platform that we're trying to build here. So for the basic components that it can be broken into is the feature store, the trainer, the runner, the deployer service, and the predictor service. So there arises the question that, like getting into it, what is the need of a feature store? So a feature store ensures that we will be able to ingest our data, and we will be able to create and reuse and keep reusing all the features that are there for different data sets. So, so right now for the data set ingestion, importing all our data sets and then querying it to the feature store, I'm using BigQuery and Feast, which is basically an open source library. It's the fastest part to operationalizing analytical data for model training. I'll be using BigQuery and querying the data sets from there, and these features will be stored in Feast. So here you can see a short setup of how things go from BigQuery to Feast. We import the data, we explore the data, there is some sort of basic feature engineering that is done, and finally we put in the transform data into Feast. So the data sets are queried from BigQuery, and then we store the features in the Feast registry. The workflow in Feast involves a data ingestion, obtaining feature definitions for a given data set, creating a feature view, pushing these onto the registry, and obtaining our historical features, and then finally getting those feature vectors. Now, these are the feature vectors which can be used and reused again and again for different data sets. At the bottom here, you can find the collab link to how on this works and what goes in the code. On this slide, you can see how we've have obtained features for a basic projects data set. So I've used a projects data set that has the projects tag and projects data set. So you will be able to see the different feature vectors that have been obtained for these, and you can keep on using and reusing this for the given data sets. Finally, what is next is I'm trying to get these features into our training pipelines to train, serve, and deploy our models. That part, I think Pratyaksh will cover in, and finally create an API endpoints for all of these. Thank you, and I am ready for feedback on the project. Yeah.
Wonderful work, Janvi. Very nicely covered. Over to the panel.
Thank you.
You've beautifully covered building blocks for machine learning, Janvi. I think this is going to make it very real. So keep in touch with the unified language contribution project as well, Bhashini. So you will see there. Get onto the Bhashini group also. So there are some thoughts that while feature extraction is an important part and that's generic, but then try to learn from the Bhashini project. What are the, how do you, experiment with models? How do you create a library of models, keep models together and so on. That Bhashini team has done an amazing work. Very, very nice. Of course, it's for language, but I think the overall architecture can be leveraged. So see where intersections are. But this is absolutely fantastic. These are, disciplinary things. Otherwise, what happens is machine learning projects go into a black hole. Some data scientist does something and some magic happens. One day demo happens, something goes into prod, and then that guy disappears and we are done. Then you can't improve it. So this is the way to really build building block approach within machine learning projects. Really nice work.
Thank you.
Just a thought, Rahul, maybe we can see the demo by Pratyaksh on machine learning itself and then take feedback overall.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I thought demos done or not there. Okay.
I think he'll be able to explain his training pipelines first, and then we can look at the demo.
Okay, yeah, please do cover it quickly because I think we're already way over time. So complete the overall thing.
All right, thank you. So can I start? Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah. Please go ahead.
I'll share my screen. Is it visible?
Yeah. Yes. We can see it.
Oh, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I am Pratyaksh. I am currently working on the machine learning platform map along with Janvi and under Ashish sir and Chakshu sir. So the main goal of this project is to enable people with less knowledge about machine learning to train model on the publicly available government dataset and then use it in their day-to-day life.
So the core goal of this project is to have minimal user interaction, along with providing them as much flexibility as they need. So let's see how the common workflow for this project works. So it is really very simple. The user first queries for a data set, and then the feature associated with that data set is returned. From your feature here, I mean the columns available for that data set. And then the user chooses his feature and target. Target is what he wants to fit on, and the feature will be what he will be using. Then all the available models at the backend will be returned to the user. The user will choose a model to train on the data set, and then the model is trained and deployed, and the deployed link will be sent to the user so that he can use it in his day-to-day life. So I have my terminal running here, and I will show you how this works. So first of when the app started, it basically fetched all the data that I have available. At my store. So currently I have two data sets, data.csv and penguin data.csv. So let's say I choose to train on penguin data.csv. Okay. So once I press OK, the pipeline runs. So let's see what happens when I choose the data set. So first, there is a feature store that Janvi already talked about, which basically contains all the data set. So the data is taken from the feature store and then fed into example generator, which basically converts this data into tf.records, which is very beneficial for us because it costs less CPU as the data is broken into small parts. So this means enable us to train multiple models at the same time and for multiple users. The second thing is that from the example generator, the stats is generated for the data with a statistics generator, which can be used for visualization and everything. From the statistics, the schema generator creates a schema.pbtxt file, which basically contains the information about the feature and column associated with the data. Now, the schema generator outputs a schema.pbtxt file. So let's see how it currently works. So I have a schema generator class from where an object can be initiated. For example, let's say the object is generator. Now we can call .run function on it, which will basically run the whole pipeline related to schema generator, and then schema.pbtxt file will be created. Now we can call copy to directory method on that to copy that generated schema.pbtxt file to directory that we want. Now a .pbtxt file on its own is not much of a use. So there is a function pass schema to JSON, which can be called on a schema.pbtxt file to basically convert it to a JSON. Now, once it is converted to a JSON, it can be sent through an API, or it can be used at the backend for internal process as well. We encourage contribution to this project, and we are kind of producing it so that more people can contribute to it. So I am just providing this is the link if you want to contribute to the source. So I think that my schema has run here. So my schema has run, and it is basically showing me all the features that are associated with the data set. So what it shows that press 0 to pass a column, 1 to use the column as feature, and 2 to use the column to choose the column as label. So let's start with body mass. Body mass, I think it can be a useful feature, so I will choose it. Column depth can be useful as well. Length also. Clipper length also. And then island. I don't think that island will be a useful feature, so I will just pass it. And then sex can be a useful feature for penguin, so I will choose it. And species is what that I want to predict, so I will choose it. And this is done. This is all the feature that I've chosen. So it will ask me that what kind of model training that I would prefer. So I will just choose that. I will like to have a classification type of training. And when I press enter, the program start executing. So now let's go how the training happens. So I already talked about example then, which is basically where the data is fed. And then the statistics schema, I already talked about. The example validator is used to do anomaly detection on the data, so we know if we need to do pre-training or not. Next is the transformation. We will talk about this in detail, and this is a very important issue because we want the whole thing to be automated and with no data science working. So this is kind of a difficult thing, and we will talk about it. Next, when the data has been transformed, then it can be trained using the trainer we have. Let's talk about the transformation. So raw data on its own is pretty worthless for a machine learning model. So, and this is a very difficult task, as I already talked about, because there is no data scientist involved. So we have to automate this. So what we do is that we try to do some transformation that is useful for all the model present with us. So one of those transformation are that one-hot encoding for categorical feature, and then column standardization for the integral and real valued feature that you got. And this will be done automatically. And I'm also providing where it is supported, where it is written, so that if you want to make more transformation to the data, you can go and add it on there. Next is the available model. So when I actually entered all the feature, you saw that two options came into play, that I have two available models. One is for classification and the next one is for regression. So this is the available model. As I already told you that we encourage public contribution. So we want people to write all the other available models with as machine learning is a growing field. So if another model comes, then this can be included here. So the basic way is that you add a model in the available model dictionary, and then it will be automatically displayed to the user. And with the available model dictionary, your key will be the name of the model, and the values will be all the hyperparameters associated with the model. And then this can be added to the provided. Next is that we are using TFX for the pipeline, and it kinds of limit you over what you are going to use. One of the limitation is that you will have to write your model in TensorFlow, and there are some more limitations, and that can be, you can have an encouragement or inspiration from the file that we are providing, ffd.py. And we also see that code refactoring and everything is very important. So this same ffd.py file is used by us to do all kind of regression. For example, we can do logistic regression, linear regression, as well as neural network with different depth and width with it. Next, talking about the training. So this is this is whole where the pipeline combines. The data is, the chosen data set is fed to the example generator, and then the model tag that the user provided, in this case classification, is kind of taken from the available model dictionary, and then all the hyperparameters are written into a file. Then a code file is generated which contains the model as well as a transformation that we want. This file is then automatically generated and will be generated differently for each of the model. And then there is a common pipeline which reads from that file, and then is able to run all the available models for the different kind of data. Once this pipeline is done, your model is trained, then your model will be copied to a directory where your trained model will be put. I think that my model training has completed. So I will just show you what the training saw here. So this basically describes you that the kind of model that it trained on. And here is the model performance. So we start with a loss of 0.32, and then we end with a very small loss of around 10 to the power minus 4. And this is on training as well as on validation, and we achieve 100% accuracy. And this is basically because this data set is too simple, and I did not use a very difficult data set, as it would have been too heavy for my system. So I will just go here and show you that where the training, once your model is trained, you can just find the trained model at here from serving model. You can see that there is this saved model.pb. Now this model can be used for deployment, and this is what we will do next. So the next step basically involves is to deploying the trained model, and then creating an API to have endpoints for all the steps. And then maybe if the timing allows us, then we will create a website for user interaction, so it becomes much easier for you. That will be all from my side. Thank you very much.
Excellent job, Pratyaksh. Very nice. I think Janvi, Pratyaksh, you've both really gotten into a very complex problem, and in a short time, made a lot of progress. In fact, start thinking of this as storybook.js, but for machine learning. So because you...
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Yeah, we can't hear you.
I think Rahul froze. Yeah.
Yeah. For now, I think we can, till Rahul comes back, we can invite some feedback. Manish, sir?
Yeah, I think this is great work, Pratyaksh and Janvi. So I work in this whole area around service delivery, which is where Digit kind of involves, and a state government delivers around 1,600 services to citizens, right? From new water connection, street lights, everything, right? If you take that whole thing, there are 1,600 services the state government delivers to citizens. Now, increasingly, as we are digitizing each of these, most of them have actually digitized. In some of the advanced states like AP, Kerala, etc., they've actually digitized, and data is actually now available. But they don't necessarily use that data for planning, prediction, etc. So I think if we can simplify this and convert them, and of course there is no people there with machine learning experience, etc. If we can convert them into a simplified building block, which kind of takes the data, injection data, and then actually start predicting, saying that, hey, next, this is likely to happen. So what simple things like, in the rainy season, this area, water is going to, and hence you need to do better planning in those areas. If you can start getting into those use cases, and each of these 1600, there is need for better planning. And this is what we keep saying, right? Governments are very poorly planned. So if I can bring this notion of prediction and planning into each of these 1600 areas, I would have helped the administrator do a little better. So, and what you are showing me is what I am connecting the dots, saying, but this is the date part of it. How do we get it to that level where we can actually apply it across all service lines, better planning, so we can deliver better services to citizens.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, I understand. This is what we are trying to basically
this is the
focus
end
on.
goal.
We are first starting with trying to create a base for things. Start with a small problem and then kind of build it up on bigger problems, add new features to your application, so that one day it can maybe used by maybe all 1600 of the services that you are talking about.
Yeah, if you need some data sets, do come. That's the most machine learning guys are deprived of data sets. So let me come to me. We are data rich.
Yes, absolutely. Sir.
Yes.
I'll get in touch.
That's wonderful. Ravi, thoughts?
Yeah, just want to add to what Manish had also said. I think, see, ML is, I mean, by design, it is sort of very cryptic, right? You can't really know what is going behind the layers of, say, a neural network or anything, right? So I think what I also want to say was that the way this entire AI ecosystem, okay, is going to be presented to the end user, right, should be extremely simplified, right? Which means and I mean, obviously this is very abstract, but I'll tell you what exactly where I'm coming from. Okay, I think the core model, I really love it. Okay, now what I think I need you to also focus on is extensive documentation, right? I think this because that's the only way you can bridge that gap, right? More about you've told me the what, right? Now what you need to focus on is the how, right? How can I use this model for specific use case? Like Manish said, right? If you want to do urban planning, okay, how can this model be used for urban planning? What are the APIs that need to be called? Okay, right? That's why I would love to see the API doc also for this, right? I want to see how how you have layered your APIs over here. I think because I mean I was really fascinated by this entire model that you have built over here. But I think it would really help if you could take one or two use cases, demonstrate that in your open source repository and saying, okay, this is how you do weather predictions, or this is how you do traffic predictions, or something like that, using this model, right? That would be very, very helpful to anybody who's trying to develop something new on this building block, right? I think that you should definitely focus on. And
Yes,
yeah, fantastic work, guys.
Thank you, sir, and that's the plan.
Okay. Thanks, Ravi. JB, any quick thoughts?
Yeah. So what I love about this is the systematic approach in which you are creating a learning factory, if you will, where I actually take any problem, I have a method to the madness, right? I am setting up that. Yeah, it would actually very complex, right? Obviously, right? So it would be complex. So that's understandable. But that idea is very ambitious. So +1 to even get on that idea. Otherwise, it's easy to deploy, take ye data lo, ye karo, uska baad ye learning aa gaya. As Rahul was pointing out, the amount of intelligence that Manish and gang are actually enabling to be produced, right? And that needs to be harnessed. One additional ambitious, already you guys are in a very ambitious problem, so I don't want to create further, but think about this. Take one data set like rain and flooding data, whatever is easily available, Manish can guide you, including electricity bills. Who is not likely to pay electricity bill next month? Simple, okay. The data is actually digitized by Manish and gang in Andhra Pradesh, for example. Now take this whole thing, let's say Rahul can actually make the machines available to you for churning that data. Now feeding it through and say, this is the learning that you got in a well understood data set, possibly reasonably clean so that a lot of transformation doesn't have to happen, and that you could produce even a much smaller problem also. That if you could think about it, this is actually worth emulating. This is an example that Rahul was talking about in the Bhashini and in the Vakyansh and Anuvad. Work on the larger model first and then for looking at the models, individual models. So you actually create a space for continuous change, continuous improvement in the way you think, so that quality is achieved much faster. Today, Vakyansh and Anuvad and Bhashini have reached where they have reached because of this process, not because they are able to get some major gyan going there. It's actually iterative, continuous improvement.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
No, perfect. Very, very nice thoughts on a complex topic. So now we move to the last presentation from Khushbu. Actually, one of the most highly used, we keep using centralized access control. So Khushbu is going to dive into that. And just a quick check on time. I know we are running late, but what we're going to do is we will close at 12:30. So what we're going to do is, after Khushbu's presentation and feedback, I'll request the panel, each one of you to, we won't have a, longer panel discussion, but would love to have your thoughts on one takeaway from the whole Code for GovTech, program. Any thoughts on that? And second is one advice for all these contributors and mentors as engineers to build a career in, open source building blocks or software. What would you guide them on their career? So just keep that in mind, and we'll just come back on the panel. But let's have this presentation and then we'll do that. Hope that's okay. We'll go till 12:30. I know it's longer than we planned, but this feedback has been immensely helpful. We didn't want to cut it short.
Thanks, Rahul. Thank you, C4GT, for presenting this opportunity. My name is Khushbu Agarwal. I'm contributing to centralized access control under the guidance of Chaksu Gautam sir. We will cover the following topics today. How does authentication works in an application? And you have seen previously in the applications. We will then proceed to the differentiating factors of this approach, the goal of the project, and the demonstration of what we have achieved till now. So every new service that gets created needs a login system and also a laundry list of tasks that has to be done along with it. So we will building a login screen, securing routes, managing users. All of these leads to duplicate code, leading to copying this code in every component. So, changing the code is a bit scarier because there's a lot of context changes need to be done before implementing. And this leads to higher integration time and incorrect deadline estimation. So the solution we came up is not new, but we will be proxying all the requests through a server, and it will authenticate the request. And if the user is not authorized, it will show the login page. It keeps in separation of concerns and allow you to build your application without adding code to secure your routes. So there are multiple solutions out there. So we will be using the most featured one and the most, that one that will be the most integration support, which will be the OAuth2 proxy, which it has a dedicated plugins so that we can connect to different auth providers. We will be using a generic auth provider, FusionAuth. Of course, the project is not limited of using the FusionAuth. We can use other providers. This project is about knowing which provider to use when. We can change the provider in future. So the centralized access control goals are, firstly, we have to basic understanding of how OAuth2 works and how we can leverage it in the existing projects. Then we want to deploy an instance of OAuth2 proxy on the Docker. Thirdly, we want to benchmark it and figure out what are the bottlenecks, if any. If everything seems to work into scale, we will be integrating with our existing projects. So as of now, we are able to complete the first one, and the second one is being partially done. We are able to run a POC and local setup, but we have to deployment is pending. So as the flow goes, we will be using an Nginx, which will be managing the routes and sending all the unrouted, unauthorized routes to the OAuth2 proxy. If the user is logged in, it will be passed to the secured upstream. If not, it will be passed to the login page. So these are the APIs that are used in the demo. We have for the demo, we have used two services, Metabase and STP. They are two dummy services that we have built upon an OAuth2 proxy with FusionOff. These are deployed locally. And we have used Nginx for security, for managing the unauthorized request. So for this, I will be showing a video because it was not possible to show the whole demo. So I have made a short video. So here we can see that we have this metabase page, and we can see that in both of these, we are not authenticated. Thus, it's showing a sign-in page of OAuth2 proxy. When we are sign in, it will redirect it to our Fusion Auth provider. And after entering the credentials, we will be signed in. So we will be signed into our secured page. Now we can see that we don't have to log in again. This is the core part. We don't have to log in again and again to services. Once we have logged in, we can log in to other services without entering our credentials. Now, if we sign out from our service, we will be signing out from both of them. And if I am showing an end-to-end flow, that what happened if I stop the auth service. So if I stop the auth service, I can see the sign-in page again comes up in both of them. So we have, if we are not, we can get the user credentials using that. This is a Docker part. Yes. So we will get, we have stopped both the services at the Metabase and the STP. We can check which service to stop the OAuth2 proxy, and now the sign-in, the OAuth2 proxy sign-in page is not coming, and we're not able to get the user. So that's all. Thanks for your time.
Excellent work, Khushbu. I think very, very important. One of the things that we've done is messed up on this in some of the building blocks that we've built. So, for example, Diksha, the Sunbird Learn thing has its own login and maintain set of users. Then there's Sunbird RC, which is tightly coupled with Keycloak. There's no proxy mechanism left there. So I think this is a very key building block that we should all kind of incorporate. So good that you're getting your part going, and also if you can probably interface with the Sunbird team, with the Learn team, and possibly kind of refactor that to make that proxy compliant, that'll be very helpful. Feedback from the panel?
Last one to Rahul.
Yeah, absolutely. Means this is basic to every building block, right? Otherwise, everybody will start incorporating Keycloak into it and it'll become like a behemoth.
No, same here, actually. I mean, I think this is extremely useful to the overall ecosystem. I mean, larger.
Yeah, what I'm seeing, Rahul, is some of these basic principles for building block evolving, where you need to throw out Keycloak, put proxy, embeddable UI. So I think we're getting towards basic principles of building blocks.
I think we should also explore maybe, just as a +1 to just authentication, we should also explore if we can see proxied consent in terms of, transmitting any sort of credentials.
There's a proxy consent proxy.
Yeah.
Just like there's security, there's a consent proxy.
Yes.
Superb. No, great feedback from the panel. So, Khushbu, as JB is also mentioning, please do maybe do a proposal on the Sunbird forum on the GitHub. Just put in a proposal, request for comments, and say, look, I propose that this should be done. Mentors can guide you, we can guide you, but very, very powerful. No, wonderful. Thank you so much for everyone, for working hard over the past months, actually, while coding time is 2 weeks, but you've been working, thinking about the proposal, thinking about it very nicely, that overall enthusiasm and the hard work is visible, right? Now you realize the importance of writing a design doc before starting code. You're all able to accomplish quite a bit in the last 2 weeks of coding time. But that's only possible because you had a very detailed proposal and a design doc ready. So that's just a good learning for everyone. And as you rightly said, as all the panel kept mentioning, all of these are building blocks. So two things really coming out. One is building blocks coming out of all of you. If you take each thing that you have done and express it as a building block in the final presentation, in the finale, would love for you to express this, what your work, each one of you, every parts of it, what are the building blocks that you have really contributed to, and where do they fit in the larger picture of things? Have that visibility. That's the way we are all part of that open source ecosystem, building it. And second is also contribute to the thought process. So I think a lot of you, we've learned a lot. I have learned a lot from what you've done today, because there are a lot of these learnings that are triggering more thoughts, more ideas. And if you can keep, don't just limit yourself to this project, go beyond this project, go into forums. Now you have the license, and what happens in forums is, when you know nothing, right, and you come into the forum, the basic thing that people say is, I like this, I know JavaScript, can I contribute, right? That is the typical first post. But now you guys are experts. You're actually coming up with alternative ways of doing it, alternative thought process. So please be confident, post things on the forum, and everyone is very kind and very helpful. We'll all discuss and come to a better, better state of any individual repositories. So now I know we are way over time. We won't spend as much time on the panel. I know our panelists also are very busy, and this is a Sunday, need to leave. So what I'll request each of the panelists to do is, if we can just have one top thought, one takeaway from today, one key takeaway from today, and any advice for, and the second thing is any advice on your career, right? What should you as youngsters today, engineering students doing such good work, what does it mean for you to actually, what is the advice that you as panelists would have for these young contributors that they should pursue in their engineering career? So two things, one is thought on code for GovTech, and one is advice on engineering. Let's just go around the room. JB, if you want to start.
Great. First of all, I mean, like the last bencher in this class, learning everything from you. So phenomenal, right? I know pretty much everybody here knows more than me. So this is phenomenal for me to learn from you. And I hope that there has been a cross learning as well, both on approach and how you approach the problem, and how you pace yourself. When I saw a project plan in one of the sessions, that's one learning for all of you, to say how do you actually time yourself. And when I see a very nice high level view of it, the zoom out view, which is very essential, especially when you're in the trenches, that are also in many of them. Those are all great learnings for me as well. So essentially, this conversation about the possibility tickles me quickly, quite a bit tickling, because these conversations are where you push the boundary, especially all of them, including the last one, for example, on how we all enter into Diksha, how we exit Diksha, for example, right? So along those lines, that's one. The second thought, can I finish, Rahul, on my second thought as well?
Please, JB, please. No, I just am trying to manage time for you all, but please, I mean, each word is wisdom for everyone. Please continue as long as you need to.
As you notice, there's what the machine learning type of problems which are cutting edge, which does small things such as, where does most likely flooding happen, where do you see outage, and so on and so forth. But that requires so much technology, complexity in the back end, simplicity in the front end. Is that CTech idea, larger CTech idea, right? Much of you are striving to put up to. I would say it's a lifetime endeavor. It's pleasure and also of significant service to see your type of capabilities coming to serve the common man. Otherwise, we all could be going into large enterprises such as Boeing and so on and so forth to do whatever we do. But coming into doing basic things right in time, just now. Otherwise, capacity will happen whenever it happens, right? We all have now computerized electricity bill. That's the best technology that everybody has. DL can be applied online. That's the best technology that is there. We have million times more capacity sitting in this room on this Zoom call. So ability to put that to the use of the common man so that the life becomes more convenient at the speed of internet technologies. That's the essence that I would leave you with, to continue this quest for all the days to come, wherever you are going to go. That's my last word.
Great. Thank you so much, JB. Wonderful thoughts. Very, very helpful. Next up, Manish, you want to go ahead? Please give your thoughts.
Yeah. Firstly, very excited to be here. This is there's a lot of energy back to me. So I love this forum. So one, the way I look at it from technology start, most of this internet technology, the scale technologies that we talk about started in the research labs, right? CERN, all this. Then it moved out. A lot of the businesses and enterprises have already adopted it. And I'm only saying government is just starting to adopt technology. So, so first keep that in mind. And just to give you a sense, India government spending is 33% of the GDP. So the opportunities that are going to emerge in GovTech in the next coming decades are going to be phenomenal. And this is not just about philanthropy and doing good. I think the opportunities, the nature of problems, stuff that Ravi is doing with Beckn, etc. means a lot of that is going, these things are going to be so phenomenal, the opportunities, even the good problem statements, technically good problem statements, enriching problem statements will emerge only in this domain. A majority of them will be in this domain. Many of the enterprise problems have, more or less been solved. So, so that's my first point. And second, I think, so this is one. So big opportunities are going to come up in this domain. I think even the budget document had 36 times mentioned digital this time, right? So government is pouring in money into this space. So keep an eye out on it. Just because the opportunities today exist in the enterprise space doesn't mean it will be here. Many of this will open up in that. Second, I think of course, the need perspective, where the need is impact is, especially in our country, 68% of people in this country still live on less than $2 a day. And that number is striking. Please be aware of it. Always put that in context. Whether we're talking about, health service, education, financial inclusion, means we lose that. But this service delivery is all about how do you get ease of living, not just for people like us, but for the entire population. So I think thinking through that puts a lot of responsibility on us and all of us here in this panel. So I think that is the other piece that I'll leave you with. So there's good opportunity and there's huge need. So please be aware of it. And I think we're just getting started.
Wonderful thoughts, Manish. Thank you so much. This is very motivating. Thanks a lot. Also see Alok, commenting in great detail on the chat. Alok, you want to just share your thoughts on voice as well?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think really great. If I look at when I was in engineering, I was nowhere near what these guys are doing. So I think it is, very, very refreshing to see that. But having said that, I think there are a couple of things you guys have to, be aware. I think we are in the middle of very huge, focus on how digital public infra, will get done. And India in many ways is leading that. So I think you have a absolutely fabulous opportunity. You're in the middle of starting a career where some fundamental shift is happening, and digital will going to become very critical from that perspective. So, my suggestion and encouragement will be active engager in that context, whether you are full-time working in this space or not, doesn't matter. But this is a great opportunity for you to learn. So the ball is in your court. There is no better learning ground than this. When you have to solve the problems for a 1.4 billion population nation like India, I think if you can crack it, you can crack many more. And one point for each of you, and I know some of these messaging are very, very heavily ingrained in India as a society. This 4 years is very critical for you guys, right? Start building a point of view. Okay, people around you, whether they are more experienced than you, more number of years of age than you, don't get into this stuck of, I will be told what to do because I am junior. very important. It's nothing to do with technical skills, nothing to do with your work. It is fundamental basic skills, and I will re-emphasize, we know unfortunately our education system does not teach that, but make sure you build that, whether you say sir or whatever. I mean, I'll not go there, but the fundamental thinking process has to be very critical, right? Do not lose track of that. So I'll stop here. I think few other things I've already shared. So thanks everyone.
No, wonderful thoughts, Alok, and Alok's also sent a chat with a link or two, so definitely look at that. Thanks, Alok. Golden advice. Ravi, want to share your thoughts?
Yeah, sure. So I think two parts. I think first on the I want to talk about the open source part, which you guys are all working on, right? A couple of things you guys need to be very, very aware of, because this is more about real world implications of open source, right? Make sure that your licensing is there, okay, always there on your open source code base, okay, so that it doesn't get forked and get patented by somebody else, right? Second thing, one major problem which I've seen in open source is that it starts off great, right? Then it generally tapers down because of lack of contributions or the lack of people, trying to, but lack of, issues being, responded to, or discussions being responded to. Slowly, the enthusiasm slowly tapers down. After that, that open source repository becomes debunked, right? Happens to a lot of open source projects. So I try to come up with a scalable model on how to manage open source. Managing open source is a task in itself, right? Right. How do you handle 1,000 PRs coming in a day, right? Maybe today you are not getting more than 2 or 3 PRs in a day. Tomorrow, if your open source project becomes huge, how do you handle 1,000 PRs, right? 1,000 questions being asked, and maybe you have a team of 5 people. Now, 5 people cannot answer 1,000 questions in the same time, right? One thing which I recently discovered, right, how to answer a lot of questions in a very short amount of time, was that to go through the questions and actually look at what is the state of the mind of the person who is asking that question, right? A lot of questions are generally about, hey, have you used this technology for that? Have you used that technology for that? Don't ever be reactive in answering those questions. Look at the state of the person, state of the mind of the person who's asking those questions in the discussion forum and the issue forum. Probably he doesn't even understand the technology behind it. That's why he's asking some questions like that. So try to classify these questions into various buckets. And recently we did that exercise. We were able to translate like around 240 questions into like a total of 6 questions, right? I think basically it was all about, I don't understand this technology, so that's why I'm asking some stuff. Now I understand some bit of this technology, that's why I'm asking about its applications. Or, how do I apply it in this sector? Or how do I, now I have downloaded the code base. How do I install this technology? So make sure that the understanding of the technology, and this is one very important part, focus on design principles. They are like the DNA, they are like the ACTNG of, life, right? Software life over there, right? And because just imagine, right? Just 4 letters, ACTNG, was responsible for the diversity of all life on this planet. So focus on extremely core design principles which govern your entire software, because that is what will help you achieve scale, right? And obviously, one thing which really helps is if you, in your open source repositories, if you can put a document on how do I contribute, okay, right? Contributions, in the end, it's all about getting a PR, but what should be my thinking? What are the areas that you can contribute in? What are the various problems that we are currently facing? If somebody who's can, put that in a markdown file, put it in current open problems in this repository, right? People can come and start contributing, look at that, understand how to contribute. Okay, now they can focus on a particular piece of code, and then they can add to that, right? So make it easy for any contributor to go through your repository and be able to contribute effectively. That's the only way you will be able to sustain your open source project, or else generally the interest goes down, right? In such open source projects. So that's the open source part advice that I wanted to give you guys, because these are very real problems that we are facing today, right? So that was one thing. Second was on the career advice. I think this is something which I've come from. This is more of a personal experience. I will want to tell you about my personal learnings. Okay. The best way to improve your software skills is by debugging other people's code. Okay, right. I was thrown into an ocean called ST Microelectronics where there was code, and I was basically writing device drivers for set-top boxes. There was code coming in from France, there was code coming in from the US and London and Bristol, all of those people. And then when I was asked to go through that code and sort of debug it, it was almost like a very personal connection that was that I was having with the developer on the other side, because everybody has their own style of writing, right? It's almost like a very intimate connection that you have with another developer, right? And as you go and start debugging other people's code more and more, your own code quality starts getting improved, right? You would see some other person writing a code in a very nice way. You would have written it in a very crude way because you're not that much experienced and all. So focus on debugging other people's code. Sometimes what happens is, if that happens if you are in a big company like an MNC or something, right? But if you are in a startup, you are generally given a project to manage on your own, right? In those cases, if you want to start debugging other people's code, then see if you can actually contribute to other open source projects and start debugging the issues over there. It's obviously going to be outside your time of work, right? You can do this during weekends or during the evenings, but focus on this aspect of it, right? Debugging other people's code makes your code much better, right? Coding skills much better. That was one thing, right? Second, I think Alok had mentioned this thing. This is absolutely important. Please punch above your weight always. Okay. When I was put in ST Microelectronics, I was put in as a tester, right? And I know that testing is a field which generally people are like, "Arey yaar, testing mein dal diya mere ko," like, right? I was, I went to my manager and said, "No, I am okay testing because that was part of my internship, but I want to also debug that code. Give me the code base," right? He didn't give me the code base. No, beta, abhi tum, you just, test the code. What I had to do? I had to turn on an ST and a set-top box using a remote control and see whether the display was coming, whether the volume button was coming. I was like, what is this? A 10-year-old can do it, right? So I actually went to my manager's reporting manager and said, I want the code base. Okay. Please give me a sandbox environment. Please give me the entire dump on the local. I will do it if you want. But please give me the code. I would like to actually debug. Right. And that guy actually sent an email to my manager and said, please give him the code base so that he can work. He wants to learn. What's your problem? Right. And then he gave me the code base. I worked, and those code actually got merged into the production repository. Right. And that 8-month internship was almost like a proper work experience for me. So please do not hesitate to ask. Just because you have been given something to do doesn't mean that you just have to do that and I'm done. Right. Always punch above your weight. This is how this industry works. And make sure that if you are willing, right, nobody is going to, there's always going to be somebody who's going to help you, get that thing done, right? So be as fearless as possible in this industry. Ask, make sure that you're, I used to, my mentor used to get literally irritated at me because I used to call him at 10 o'clock, hey, I'm facing this bug, please, right? But I used to call him again and again and again, and he used to someday when he used to get response, acha, theek hai, this, I don't think this guy's going to give up. He used to call me back, and then we used to sit and solve the bug together. And that's how sort of I learned, very core concepts, right? And one last thing, which this is more of a personal advice, try exploring low-level programming, right? Things like device drivers and Linux kernels and everything. I think that sort of it really clears out your core concepts of computer science. I think this is really, today, whatever I have learned is because I started off my career with Linux kernel programming, and that really, changed everything about my coding skills. I think, yeah, that's my 2 cents worth of, yeah.
Really, absolutely golden advice. I think each one of us are just, beaming with the motivation from your story, because nobody gets the perfect job, right? Nobody gets the perfect opportunity, but you have to create opportunities like you just did. And the other one is just getting not afraid to being, getting into high level things. Nowadays, everyone wants to directly go into, some framework or the other, and everything is high level. Now it's all no code. Everyone wants to configure, not build. So that advice is very, very timely. I also want to recognize, all the mentors who are with us today. So they're all from different organizations, right? Code for GovTech, while Samagra is hosting it, running it. But it's really made possible because of a bunch of mentoring organizations that have come together. So Ashwin from Tekdi, Manav is working at Postman, but very closely associated with GovTech. Mentors from a whole bunch of, Karthik from EkStep, and other places, all coming together to really make this program successful. So next year, I'm sure we'll have even digit projects, coming from eGov Foundation with Manish. In fact, when we told Manish, hey, there is this thing, and he was really angry on us. Like, why isn't a digit project there? So next time we'll definitely have a bigger and grander thing with even more organizations, more cutting edge projects. So thanks each one of you for being here today. Thanks to the panel, especially. I know it's a Sunday. I know it's way over time, but really, really, really appreciate every bit of advice that you give. I have enjoyed this session. One of the most, insightful sessions in a long time that I have attended. So thanks to the panel, JB, Ravi, Manish, and Alok as well, you joined. So thank you so much for being here and making time for this. And thank you, contributors. You just saw how impactful your work is, how well you're doing in terms of the direction of thought that you need, how much you need to actually learn more to really, incorporate what does population scale coding mean, what does GovTech mean, and all of those things are things that are in your hands. You need to grow into this open source world. So congratulations on getting this far, but this is just a 1/3 mark really. So make the most out of the next 5 or 6 weeks of coding. Really stretch the limits, apply all these principles, get nouns, verbs, focus on documentation, focus on getting the right features in, explanations, everything, all the things that were talked about today, and make that a grand success. So thank you everyone for coming today.
Hey, thanks a lot, guys. Nice to be here. All the best.
Thanks all. Bye-bye.